verse 9.
To get Romans chapter 10, dial *811 *962 hash. *811 *962 hash.
Are you an aspiring candidate in the upcoming general elections? Do you want your agenda and manifesto to reach your voters effectively? At KBC, we have the most comprehensive and credible online platform that has profiles of all prospective candidates. Log on to www.kbc.co.ke/2022 aspirants and let Kenyans know more about you, your past achievements, your manifesto, and your development agenda once you get elected to office. What's more, the website is easy to navigate. We will create your profile, post pictures and short videos with your campaign messages at affordable hosting fees. Log on to www.kbc.co.ke/2022 aspirants today and establish your brand authority as we lead towards the forthcoming general elections.
Divididos por una sombra de traición.
I never said I wouldn't cooperate, but what you're asking me to do is a terrible crime.
Oh, I don't know what to do with you anymore, Leonardo.
What's wrong now?
Nothing. At least let me convince you not to take that gun with you.
No.
It's him. That's him. It's him. Stop him.
Hey,
sir.
What are you doing? What is this?
Sorry, sir,
Let
but
me
you
go.
have to come with us.
Sir, why? What did I do?
Calm down. She's probably on her way here.
But she's supposed to be here.
Of course, to see whether they will be agreeing with the amendments or the proposals in this particular bill, or rejecting those amendments. The Law of Succession Amendment Bill, Senate Bill number 15 of 2021, tabled by Honorable Senator Abshiro Halahe, will also be considered in the Committee of the Whole this afternoon. This bill, or rather this debate on this particular bill, is a resumption of debate that was interrupted on Wednesday, 2nd March of 2022. Again, members will be going into division. Of course, this will be subject to the quorum in the House. There are about 4 bills that members, or rather 5 bills that members will be going into division to see whether they will be considering the amendments, whether they will be rejecting or adopting them. But again, this will be subject to the quorum of the House this afternoon sitting. All right, Deputy Speaker of the Senate, Honorable Margaret Kamar, has stepped into the chambers to oversee this afternoon sitting. I will now hand you over for the live broadcast. Good afternoon. My name is Kamche Menza.
Prayer. Almighty God, we beseech you to behold with your abundant favor and blessings as your servants whom you have been pleased to call to leadership positions in this republic. We seek guidance to treat and consider all matters that shall come under our deliberations in so just and faithful a manner as to advance the peace, prosperity, and welfare of our country and of those whose interests you have committed to our church. Amen.
Order number 1, administration of oath. Order number 2, communication from the chair. Order number 3, messages. Order number 4, petitions. Order number 5, papers. Order number 6, notices of motion.
Honorable Senators, there was a notice of motion from Senator Bishiro Halake, and I will come back to that because she had pleaded that it be done today. Next order.
Order number 7, statements.
Honorable Senators, Honorable Halake, are you online? Has she come online? Noted she's not yet online, but since we're expecting her, yeah, let's move. We shall move to the next statement. Abshira Halake's statement is pursuant to Standing Order 47-1. So I'll skip it for now and move to the next statement, pursuant to Standing Order 52-1, the Senate Majority Leader to issue a statement. Senator Bokisho.
Madam Speaker, pursuant to Standing Order 52-1, I hereby present to the Senate the business of the House for the week commencing Tuesday, 8th March 2022. Madam Speaker, on the Tuesday, 8th March 2022, the Senate will consider business that will not be concluded from today's order paper, as well as business indicated in the notice paper that has been annexed to the order paper for today. On Wednesday, 9th March, and on Thursday, 10th March 2022, the Senate will consider business that will not be concluded on Tuesday, 8th, and Wednesday, 9th March 2022, respectively, and any other business scheduled by the Senate Business Committee, including petitions and statements. Madam Speaker, there are 11 bills due for the Committee of the Whole stage. 4 of these bills have been scheduled for division in today's order paper. I urge honorable senators to be available in the chamber or to log in for online participation to enable the House to undertake the divisions. Pursuant to Standing Order 59-3, 8 bills at the second reading stage have been dropped from the program of Senate business. The bills that have been dropped include the Political Parties Primaries Bill by Dr. Isaac Mwaura, the National Cohesion Peace Building Bill, Senator Judith Pareno, the Coconut Industry Development Bill, Senate Bills number 24 of 2021, that's the chairperson of the Standing Committee on Agriculture, Livestock and Fisheries. The Alternative Dispute Resolution Bill, Senate Bills number 34 of 2021 by Senator Architect Sylvia Kasanga. The County E-Health Bill, Senator Judith Pareno. The Sports Amendment Bill, Senate Bills number 40 of 2021, Senator Aaron Cheruiyot. The Maternal Newborn Child Health Bill, Senate Bills number 52 of 2021, Senator Rose Nyamunga. And then the 8th one is the Employment Amendment Bill, Senate Bills number 54 of 2021, Senator Samson Cherarke, MP. Movers of these bills who wish to pursue the matter are urged to make an appeal to the Speaker in writing for the same to be reinstated in the weekly program of the Senate business. Madam Speaker, in addition to the bills before the House, there are 48 petitions that are yet to be concluded in the Senate and 3 motions. Respective standing committees are encouraged to expedite consideration of the said petitions and to table reports pursuant to Standing Order 2322, while the movers of the motions are urged to be in the House when the same is listed in the order paper. In conclusion, Madam Speaker, pursuant to the calendar approved on 9th February 2022, the House will proceed on recess on Friday, 11th March 2022, and resume its sittings on Tuesday, 22nd March 2022. I urge all senators to take the remaining time before the first recess to ensure that as much business as possible is transacted. Madam Speaker, I thank you, and I hereby lay this statement on the table of the Senate. Thank you.
Thank you, Leader of Majority. Senator Halake, she online yet? Okay, she's not online. So we shall proceed. Next order. Honorable Senators, as per the resolutions of the House Business Committee, unfortunately, Senator Halake's motion will be dropped. And then, but the statement we will. No, sorry, the statement is dropped, but the motion, she can pick it up when she is available next. She had wished to do it today. Honorable Senators, therefore, let's move to the next agenda.
Order number 8, the Landlord and Tenant Bill, National Assembly Bills number 3 of 2021. Second reading, division.
Honorable Senators, for the convenience of the House and with concurrence from the whips, we defer the divisions. So order number 8 is deferred. Next order.
Order number 9. Order number 10, order number 11, order number 12, Committee of the Whole, divisions.
Honorable Senators, again, for the same reason, for convenience of the House and with concurrence with the whips, divisions are deferred today. So we defer order number 9, order number 10, order number 11, order number 12. Next order.
Order number 13, Committee of the Whole, the Elections Amendment number 3 Bill, Senate Bills number 48 of 2021. Order number 14, Committee of the Whole, the County Resource Development Bill, Senate Bills number 45 of 2021. Order number 15, Committee of the Whole, the Irrigation Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bills number 12 of 2021. Order number 16, Committee of the Whole, the Community Groups Registration Bill, National Assembly Bills number 20 of 2021.
Honorable Senators, the chairs of the committees in relation to Order number 13, Order number 15, and Order number 16 have confirmed that they're working on amendments, and so we will defer. We will also defer Order number 14 for the same reason that the amendments that are coming for the County Resource Development Bill. So we urge the relevant chairs who have requested that they are coming to table amendments for during the Committee of the Whole for the three orders 13, 14, 15, and 16 to work on the amendments so that we can have these items reinstated on Tuesday the 8th. Next order.
Order number 17, the Elections Amendment number 2 Bill, Senate Bills number 43 of 2021, second reading.
Honorable Senators, we have received information from Senator Ledama Olekina that he is not able to be in the House today. And so the Elections Amendment number 2 Bill, Senate Bills number 43 of 2021 is deferred. There's a point of order.
Madam Speaker, I want to bring to your attention that in view of the passing of the Election Amendment Bill number 42 of 2013, which the Senate Business Committee had prioritized over 43, which is proposed by Senator Ledama Olekina, it would actually be a contradiction to consider this bill after passing 42. And therefore, Madam Speaker, I thought the Secretariat and SBC would reconsider listing this bill. It will be a contradiction to pass both. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. I would therefore like to refer that amendment, Bill number 2, back to the House business on Tuesday so that it is dealt with there. Next order. Next order is also affected by the absence of Senator Olekina, so we defer Order 18. Next order.
Order number 19, motion, adoption of the report of the Standing Committee on Health on the special audit report on utilization of COVID-19 funds by 28 county governments.
This one is supposed to be moved by the chair, the vice chair of the Committee of Health. Senator Mutula, you have something on that one?
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I have confirmed with Senator Abdullahi that this motion is supposed to be moved by Mary Senator, who I've been unable to trace in the last 5 minutes. Thank you.
Okay. In absence of Mary Senator, then we will defer it for a minute just in case she walks in as we move to the next order.
Order number 20, motion, adoption of reports of the Sessional Committee on County Public Accounts and Investments on consideration of the reports by the Auditor General on the financial statements of various county executives for the financial years 2018-2019.
Honorable Senators, I have been reliably informed that the chair of the Sessional Committee on County Public Accounts and Investment is away. And for that reason, we defer order number 20. Back to, Senator Bokisha.
Madam Speaker, Madam Speaker, this is a very important
yes, Senator.
Yes, it's a very important function of committees and committee chairs, Madam Speaker, that when the committee chair is not available, there are other members of those committees. Madam Speaker, it is not correct for us to say just because the chair is not there, therefore we keep putting off a matter. It is the responsibility of that chair to organize a member or their vices or their deputies, whatever, to run the business. Otherwise, if we continue waiting, Madam Speaker, it's well known that it should be organized that way. And so on those accounts, some of these things should just be dropped like everybody else, because on account of not being there, that's not a very good reason. And I think we should really start putting that as a matter to be considered by the SBC. The thing that a chair missing means there's no business. I don't think that should be correct.
Senator Mutula.
Although I agree with the majority leader, this is not one of those things you drop. It will pain us very badly if we drop the reports of Public Accounts Committee with regard to the expenditure by county governments. But I thought maybe sanctions of that committee, because SBC put us under, particularly the whips, under so much pressure to reconstitute these committees. So there's no reason in the world that this committee is not present, because we reconstituted less than a week ago. They can't be suffering from any fatigue of sorts. These matters should be cleared, particularly now that we are going to the election. You don't have matters of public accounts pending. Otherwise, we'll leave a very bad name in the Senate that is going to come after us. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Mutula. Thank you, Leader of Majority. I think it is true that we don't have the luxury of time between now and the elections. And I would like to urge the House Business Committee to consider this very seriously. And particularly, we need the chairs of committees. Maybe we should be talking to the liaison committee, even not the House Business. The liaison committee must take their sitting and look at the number of bills and motions, as well as petitions that are really in their docket, because we still have a lot of petitions that are hanging. We have a number of bills that are hanging. We have a number of motions that have not been prosecuted. So I would like to agree with the whip from the minority and the leader of majority that we need to start paying attention to our roster so that we actually clear. And the liaison committee must start to give themselves a timetable so that any business that comes in the order paper is not deferred at all. Senator Mutula.
In view of the sensitivity of this particular motion, the one on public accounts, if Majority Leader agrees with me, being our boss here, perhaps the chair of Public Accounts Committee should be called into our meeting on Tuesday so that we can find a solution, particularly this one. This is critical to our mandate, and I hope, Madam Speaker, we can pass so that if the chair is missing, Vice Chair should be available, or any other member to move this, because we have agreed on bills. If 2 members contribute, we expedite them. So there's no reason why we should not get a better explanation. And further, Madam Speaker, I've just spoken to Senator Abshiro. She will be here in a minute. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Senator. I would like to suggest further that maybe the suggestion from Senator Mutula makes sense, but I don't think we want to address the House business to address only one chair. I think there is need to have a joint meeting between the House Business Committee and the Liaison Committee, because we cannot afford to drop anything now. It is too late in the day for us not to complete our business. So I would like to urge, urge the Liaison Committee, the chairs themselves, to really have a timetable, even between themselves, because if they have a timetable between themselves, then everybody looks for a slot for their own for their own business to come on the order paper. What is untidy is to have a lot of items on the order paper being deferred. The only things that we defer comfortably are the divisions, because we wait for the whips to advise us on the divisions. So I would like to suggest that a joint meeting between the liaison and the House business be called on Tuesday. Maybe the Liaison Committee leader of majority would like to strongly suggest that, and I want you to comment on it so that you actually the right invitation is done, because we would like to have that invitation done so that we have a joint meeting. That way we give ourselves proper programs. If one chair is absent, another chair should be able to seek to replace the other in the items in the order paper, because we have everything. We have petitions that are pending, we have bills that are pending, and we have reports from these committees, because we cannot drop item 19 and item 20, both of them cannot be dropped. These are our internal reports. We are the ones who commissioned them, and we must receive them. Senator Pokisho.
No, Madam Speaker, I just wanted to respond by saying that I concur with both yourself and the chair and Senator Mutula Kilonzo Jr. But I think your suggestion that we actually have a meeting, not with one chair, but with the entire liaison committee, a joint meeting, will sort out some of the things, and you should be able then to seize the matters, and knowing that we don't have time. Like you said, Madam Chair, we don't have the luxury of time. And so this is one of them. On the other hand, I want to just clarify that when we say we drop...
She has a notice of motion, and she also has a statement.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I wish to give notice of motion integrating climate education into school curriculum at all levels. Aware that it is important that both the current and future generations are better equipped to address the problem of climate change, and this can be accomplished by using appropriate instructional strategies such as integrating climate education into the syllabus to assist students in improving their understanding of climate change and acquiring the essential skills to reduce its effects, acknowledging that education is crucial to promote climate action as it helps individuals understand and address the impacts of the climate crisis, empowering them with the knowledge, skills, values, and attitudes needed to act as agents of change, hence protect the environment and take action by crafting community-level solutions, cognizant of the fact that the Constitution of Kenya, Article 42, provides for the right to clean, healthy environment for every Kenyan, which includes the right to have the environment protected for the benefit of present and future generations, further noting that climate change is a global nightmare with consequences that are already quite visible and should be a priority for our education curriculum in accordance to Article 12 of the Paris Agreement, which espouses that enhancement of climate change education, training, public awareness, public participation, and public access to information. Now, therefore, the Senate calls upon the Council of Governors in partnership with the Ministry of Education, Science and Technology to integrate climate education in the school curriculum in all counties to equip all school-going children and equip teachers and administrators with the necessary information and training as well as skills to teach climate education in schools. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Senator Abshiro. You also had a statement, and we would like you to go to that one.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I raise pursuant to Standing Order 47.1 to make a statement on an issue of general topical concern regarding the widespread sexism and violence against women in parliaments, actually around the world. Madam Speaker, a new study launched by the Inter-Parliamentary Union and the African Parliamentary Union, APU and IPU respectively, on 23rd November 2021 reveals that sexism, harassment and violence are a norm across parliaments, especially within Africa. The study on African parliaments reveals that 80% of women parliamentarians experience psychological violence in parliament. Let me repeat that. The study on African parliaments reveals that 80% of women parliamentarians experience psychological violence in parliament, 67% are subjected to sexist behavior or remarks, 40% have been sexually harassed, 23% endured physical violence, while 42% received threats of rape, beatings, abduction, and majorly online, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, this statement comes to this House as a way of ensuring that this study does not go unnoticed in African parliaments, especially because it touches African parliamentarians. Madam Speaker, sir, the study further indicates that the majority of abuses targeting women parliamentarians is perpetrated by male counterparts, especially from the rival parties and political leanings, particularly women parliamentarians with disability, women under 40, unmarried women, and women from minority groups face a higher incidence of violence, as seen in the study. As a parliament, we have not been spared of these incidences of sexism and harassment that target women parliamentarians, especially now with the electioneering period in the horizon, and therefore the topical manner and the issue at hand. Madam Speaker, the previous IPU studies, together with the new African study, shows that women MPs all over the world suffer similar levels of harassment and sexism. However, with the prevalence of 39%, the level of sexual violence against women parliamentarians in Africa is considerably higher than the European Parliament, which is 14%, and by 14 percentage points, and compared to global figures by 17 percentage points. When it comes to parliamentary staff, the prevalence is even much higher, Madam Speaker, with 46% of the sample experiencing sexual violence compared with 41% in Europe. The study suggests that this can be partly explained by the political, socio-cultural, and religious context within which women parliamentarians live in Africa. For example, according to the Armed Conflict Location and Events Data Project in 2018, Africa has had the highest number of conflict-related incidences and violence against women. If women in the august House can face these forms of sexual abuse, what about the ordinary woman out there, Madam Speaker? Indeed, women are grappling with widespread violence, sexism, harassment in our societies. It does not only harm their well-being and overall development as human beings, but also exposes them to the risk of losing their lives. Unfortunately, the IPU, the International Parliamentary Union, and African Parliamentary Union report points to an insidious pattern of normalized sexual discrimination against women parliamentarians in Africa. Therefore, by normalizing violence, sexism and harassment against women in privileged and protected institutions such as Parliament, we deter their desire to effect meaningful change through democratic representation of their constituents. It also dims the morale of the women seeking to join elective politics in a society that yearns for gender equality and gender equity. In this regard, Madam Speaker, there's an urgent need for African parliaments, including the Kenyan institution, to institute mechanisms to protect women parliamentarians from sexism and other forms of sexual harassment and violence. This can be achieved through independent receipt and processing of gender sexual harassment and discrimination complaints that protect the victims from retribution by the perpetrators. Above all, we must uphold the rights of women parliamentarians at all costs, and as enshrined in the Bill of Rights in Chapter 4 of our Constitution, and develop policies that entrench zero tolerance to violence, sexism, and harassment within Parliament. Also, we must inculcate a sense of responsibility among men and sensitize them to become the defenders of women's rights in Parliament. More than ever, we must transform our parliaments into safe spaces where both women and men parliamentarians can comfortably carry out their legislative oversight and representative mandates. I thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you, Senator. Senator Pokisho. I'm using my discretion to allow a comment on this, because this is one that is bordering on whether to shift to a committee to investigate or not. So yes, I'm allowing comments for 20 minutes.
Madam Speaker, I would like to thank you for the opportunity, and also to thank Senator Shiro for raising this issue. And Madam Speaker, as she was reading her statement, Madam Speaker, I was also wondering whether this is not a situation where we should be adopting the reports from the IPU rather than bringing it here in form of a statement. I think, Madam Speaker, the reason we should be careful about bringing it to Parliament is that the statistics given, Madam Speaker, might give the impression that even the Kenya Parliament is a victim of this. And so the best way would be to adopt the report, or bring a motion, or allow a committee to go ahead and investigate. Madam Speaker, what I didn't want to allow myself personally is the impression that might be created. If we can get the statistics for the Kenya Parliament, it will be very useful to see how far we have also been victims of this. And if it is just a universal figure, we might not be able to, unless we adopt the report, we might not be able to contribute very much, Madam Speaker. And so I'd like for her to do, it looks like further research is required, particularly. Yes.
Yes, I don't know whether Senator Pogisho would want to be informed. Senator Musuruge?
Senator Pogisho, I hope you'll allow me to inform you that when I'm talking of studies, and when Senator Halake stands here to talk of studies, it is a research that has been done, and scholarly work has been done. And so this is an issue of global concern, not only in Kenya, but it's an issue of global concern, especially given that when it comes to issues of governance and politics, women have not predominantly been there, and society had in the past had defined the role of women as being in the kitchen and all that. Honorable Speaker, that is the information I'd like to give.
Senator Pogisho?
You know, Senator Musuruge has given information that I might use, I might not use. But It's there. Madam Speaker, let me just say that the way that the statement was, the reason I'm asking this is that the statement, the way it is worded on the order paper, Madam Speaker, does not really clarify. You might think it's a Kenya Parliament because it says she wants to make a statement concerning the high prevalence of sexism and violence against women in Parliament. It doesn't. So this is the only thing I'm trying to help here. But the second thing is that the information is given is so good that a committee of the House could actually deal with it, or we adapt the report. Those reports, if they have already been tabled here, so that we can actually have an opportunity to debate it and discuss it and come up with solutions. Thank you.
Senator Halake, you had an intervention?
Yes, Madam Speaker, I wanted to just inform the House that this is a study by African Parliamentary Union, and when it came out, member parliaments have to be informed. So this is why it's under 47.1, so that African parliaments, and the Kenyan Parliament is part of it, has been highlighted as having this issue, and this is a scientific study that was done, and therefore it was incumbent upon us to actually then sensitize our own parliament on the outcome of this study. So this is the spirit in which this statement was read.
Senator Kilonzo Mutula.
I have a lot of respect for Senator Abshiro, but I'm afraid now I have to agree with Senator Majority Leader that, and having been a special rapporteur for matters concerning violence against women, ideally an IPU report would be tabled here with the facts and figures, so that then you can extract the resolutions of what we need to do, not just as Parliament of Kenya, but even as a community of parliaments and members of IPU. I say so because I thought that Senator of Nakuru is our representative in IPU, unless the position has changed, so that the position has not changed. If the position has not changed, then the person who sits in the executive of IPU on behalf of the Kenyan Senate as a representative of our House, and appointed by Speaker Lusaka, should be the one then to report back to IPU that Parliament has tabled the report and this is the actions we have taken. Otherwise, then it looks like as if we have done something wrong as men. Now I'm defending the men folk here, the senators. And it would have been nice, Senator Abshiro, my good friend, to say, with the exception of the Senate of Kenya, there is no report of sexual harassment or any harassment of any form against any female senator here. It will, for the record, would be very nice. But for purposes of action, the report itself, because it comes in the form of a report, would be nice to be tabled first, so that we can activate either by way of a motion to say, with the exception of the Senate of the Republic of Kenya, perhaps there is a case that has been reported in the National Assembly which we need to articulate, but then we find a way forward. But the way it is tabled, I agree with the leader that if it was to go into the Hansard the way it is, it would appear as if there is a senator who has been harassed here, which is not correct. Thank you.
Senator Abshiro.
Why are my good friends, Senators Pogisho and Senator Kilonzo, being defensive? If a report touches on African Parliament and we highlight the issues therein, so that then it doesn't pass, and we acknowledge that Senator Kihika is our representative, but that doesn't stop us, if she doesn't bring it up, for any of us to say this is happening and therefore let's be aware of it. If you, Madam Speaker, if you wish to have us do the report and assign it to a committee, we beg you to do so, but nothing should stop us from bringing any issue of topical concern that concerns women or men or boys or girls in this house. And no defensive, my friends should not be defensive. This is an international study, it's an African study by African Parliamentary Union, and we must voice it and we must bring attention to it, and nothing stops a member of parliament to do that, even if I am not one of the people that are sitting at IPU. I thank you.
I think on that one, we will take this statement by Senator Abshiro as just a way of highlighting what we expect to come out in the report as we wait for the report to be tabled for the attention of members. So we leave it at that. Senator Cherarke Samson.
Yes. Thank you, Madam Speaker. I have looked at the statement. Initially, when I saw it, I thought it's about the Kenyan Parliament. But since Senator Bushira Alaka has clarified, and if there are any issues where any member of staff at any parliament in the entire region, Africa and the world, that has been harassed in any form, Madam Speaker, it is very unfortunate. And I agree that I agree with the passion of Senator Alaka. I wish he could just hold on a bit so that I can ooze wisdom on this matter. Madam Speaker, what I wanted to really say is that if there is any staff, and we are not just saying it's about women, it's also men are being harassed. In future, we should be say either, because we can't the harassment, men also undergo harassment, and I think it is fair. We undergo tribulation.
Senator Musuruve, you have a point of order.
Honorable Speaker, I hope Senator Cherarke will accept some point of information. Thank you. Now, when we look at this statement analytically, prevalence of sexism and violence against women in Parliament, Senator Halake has not specified the Kenyan Parliament. But globally, it is indeed the truth that women are harassed in very many ways. Psychologically, they are even harassed. Even right now, you'll find, and we're not saying all the men, you'll find that some male opponents will even go to the field and ask, will this woman make it? And they'll tend to objectify the woman. They'll tend to even look at what is irrelevant. Is she married? Is she divorced? How many children has she had? Does she have a boy child, and all that? So these things are real. They happen where women are objectified. And Senator Halake highlighting this on the floor of this House is very important, because there are times when you even go to a rally as a woman and you find, your opponents are, booing you. They don't do it directly, but they just, cause some embarrassment so that women are intimidated. It is something that is real. Why are we running away from reality? Honorable members, there is need for this statement by Senator Shiro Alake to be understood the way she has put it, instead of now beginning to politicize an issue that is of global concern. So I want to say, Honorable Speaker, many times women are harassed.
Senator Musuruve, you are doing a point of order and not contributing to the...
Because
so please be brief on the point of information and not really debating, because it's not your time to debate.
Point of information. The issue of women harassment psychologically in politics is real. Just say that we have not done studies in Kenya, but it is real. Instances of women being told, you are wasting your resources, you will not get an elective position. They're real. So that is point of information I'm giving you. Thank you.
Senator Cherarge.
Madam Speaker, what Senator, my sister Msuruve is saying is what we canvassed at men's conference led by Mzee Jackson Kibora. So, Madam Speaker, what I wanted to say in an upshot is that also men are harassed. But now Senator Msuruve is bringing another angle altogether. This was about parliament. Now she's talking about politics. And I think we need, if there is any women that are being harassed or intimidated or blackmailed, then the National Police Service must do their job. Because we cannot allow our women to be harassed simply because they are looking for elective positions. And therefore, Madam Speaker, I want to call upon the agencies that are tasked with security. Let women be given proper protection to campaign, and let them sell their agenda. We don't want also them to use opportunity also by being protected to harass men. Men also are human beings. We are not, Madam Speaker, we are not objects also. So we have feelings, and even if, in fact, this report, to be fair, and I hope when you give to committee to investigate, well, men also might be allowed to give their side of the story, because we are emotionally affected, psychologically affected, and you know, since women will be feminine, no one will assume. In fact, in an African context, some of us who went some of the rites of passage, like my brother, majority leader, you were told as a man you are not supposed to cry, you are not supposed to show emotions. But Madam Speaker, we are really suffering as men. So our issues also must be looked when they are investigating such reports. So I will talk to Senator Susan Kiika and also implore the IPU to be including investigation also into what male colleagues across Africa are being harassed. And there was incident even in where some of this, I don't want to say which parliament, where a female colleague threw water to another male colleague. That's also an harassment. But we hope this report will be tabled. But I want to thank Senator Alake for highlighting these issues. I think to bring issues of gender parity. But we want to encourage women also to not to fear. Even men, Madam Speaker, as I conclude, we are being told the same things. We are being asked whether you are married or not, whether you have children or not. So it is the standards that have been accepted by the voters down there. Do you have a house? I don't think also men also are being subjected to the same. Even as Senator Mutula Klonzo Jr., although I'm told he has adopted another is now under specifications duty, I'm told he's Mr. Fix-It. But as he walks around to look, I'm told he's the one harassing Stephen Kalonzo Musyoka, but he's doing a good job. But in a nutshell, even as Senator Mutula Kalonzo moves to look for governor, they're asking him the same questions that they're asking women. So we need only to agree at what level of harassment, but where it comes with the threat of life, then the police must ensure that all candidates, be male or female, are given equal treatment before the law. I thank you, Madam Speaker.
Senator Mutula.
Senator Cherargei brings out important issues. Same with Senator Museruve. And I've said that I've acted as a special rapporteur in IPU on matters of violence against women in the political space, not just in Parliament. And therefore, I think for purposes of Senator Abshiro, going into the election, this matter must be canvassed. And perhaps Senator Abshiro might have forgotten that in the BBI report and proposal, there was a specific provision that was proposed for specifically women, where men were supposed to be barred from contesting elections, where it was found that they were meting violence against women. And I've represented a legislator currently sitting in the National Assembly where violence was meted against her by her opponent. It's a live issue. But what we are saying is that in the study prepared by IPU, chances are that you have specific recommendations that would protect women, particularly in the political space and not just Parliament. But I was just asking for the record that Senator Abshiro would say, luckily, in the Senate of the Republic of Kenya, there is no report that any women senator has been harassed by a man in the Senate. It would be nice for us to feel good. They will tell the world that we have treated you well. I'm just asking you to compliment us for being nice and gentlemen. Thank you.
Let's hear from Senator Halake.
Madam Speaker, how am I privy to every single senator, whether or not they have been harassed or not? How am I privy to every single clerk, every single secretariat? How am I privy to that? To ask me to do that is to ask me to lie, and I refuse to do so in the floor of this House. This space is sacred, and we must try to the best of our abilities. Say what we know, not what we want people to hear.
Senator Pogisho.
Madam Speaker, you know that first of all, mine is a procedural issue. Yes. I don't understand whether what Senator Mutula Kilonzo was doing was giving information or a point of order or contributing again on this matter. But I think he was giving information. I don't know whether he was giving information to...
He did not request to speak on this, but he requested for an intervention, which to me was point of information.
Point of information. So on that note, it is my sister, Abshiro, who was accusing us of being defensive.
Correct.
And now she's being so defensive. It's not necessary to be defensive. I think the issues have been canvassed. Thank you.
Senator Cherargei.
Madam Speaker, I wish, what Senator Mutula Kilonzo is saying is very simple. This is the report and statement that has been brought by Senator Alake. She should have at least be fair to all of us, because Kenyans are watching. Everybody is following. She should have said, to the best of my knowledge, best of her knowledge, should be aware. And this guy, Senator Cheruiyot, is walking as if he's walking to Chepseon market. So, Madam Speaker, Madam Speaker, what I'm saying is that at least Senator Alake Abshiro should have said, to the best of her knowledge, she is not aware of any member of staff or parliament, especially in Senate, that has been harassed. Because this is a serious issue. Madam Speaker, if you don't take care, it can go tomorrow's headline that says high prevalence of sexism and violence against women in parliament. And it is good, the PSC Commissioner, Senator Aaron Cheruiyot, our employer, is in the house, because it is...
There is a point of order from Senator Halake. Can we hear from her? Please give her the mic. She's not online. But the network is bad.
Madam Speaker, is Senator Cherargei in order, or are the senators, the male senators actually, who are being very defensive, I'm going to repeat, in order to tell me what I should have done, or the manner in which I should have prosecuted my business when I have done it in the way I know best? I have asked for a statement of a general concern, as is the issue, because the issue needs to be brought to attention of all African parliaments, because during this electioneering period, this could have been missed. And I'm not going to sit here and for such an important report to be missed, and I'm sitting in this house as a woman whose work has been, and life has been dedicated to equality of all genders. So, is it in order, or is it part of that harassment?
Senator Abshiro, Senator Cherargei, I think I already made a ruling on this, that these highlights will just be highlights for the report that we expect to be tabled in this House. At the time that that report will be tabled, then the House will take notice of what will be in that report. But it was of no harm for Senator Abshiro to highlight what is expected to come out of that report. Senator Cherargei, please proceed.
Then, our systems today, it's looking out. But Madam Speaker, what I'm requesting is that before this report is tabled, this matter must involve each and every senator, because if it is not, it affects everybody. So that we also as men, I've told you, we are also being harassed. We are also being intimidated.
But
so I hope that the report is being brought.
Senator Cherargei, let us not discuss a report that is not here.
Let us
wait for the report to come here, and we'll see whether it covers both men and women.
Okay. Then, Madam Speaker, I think when this report shall be done, I hope some of us will have opportunity, myself, Mutula Kilonzo Jr., and other champions of the boy child, so that some of these things we are also interested in protecting all the genders, be it male or female. I thank you, Madam Speaker.
Senator Musurube.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for giving me this opportunity. And kindly allow me to thank Senator Halake for coming up with this statement of general concern. Indeed, it is coming at the right time when we are getting into elections and there's a lot of intimidation all over. And for sure, research needs to be done because it's really on the ground that women are facing a lot of harassment from some male opponents. And sometimes you'll find that they're even threatened. Sometimes there's a lot of bullying that they'll not make it and all that. Even men sometimes, gather their fellow women against, a woman who is vying. So I think when this report comes, it will be very good also to have it on the floor of this House so that it is debated. In some instances, women are even harassed and told, you will not manage, you're wasting your resources, you will not make it, and all that. And sometimes you'll even find that even women with disabilities, Senator Halake, for your information, are more harassed than other women. First of all, the fact that you have a disability already is a point to be harassed. And sometimes you'll even find women being told, with your disability, I don't think you can become a leader. And I don't think you can even give birth, and so on and so forth, Honorable Speaker. So these things are real on the ground. Thank you, Senator Abchiro, for highlighting the plight of women. And there's need also for the government to see how they can support women, especially during this time, because women may not have the physical muscle that men have, and they may not have the strong influence that men have also over the women. Because, Honorable Speaker, women can be very genuine with their words, and sometimes men are good at wearing 3-4 hats, Honorable Speaker. So I want to say, Honorable Speaker, when this report comes into this House, it will be a good report to really look at and debate on and see how to protect the women of Africa so that they are able to go and catapult into leadership positions, Honorable Speaker, so that they are not domiciled in the kitchen and so on. Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I support this statement, and thank you, Senator Halake, for bringing it on the floor of this House. Thank you.
Senator Omanga, we are told you're online and you have a statement to make. And of course, we are now, yes, Senator Omanga?
Yes, Madam Speaker.
You have a statement that you have to read.
Yes.
Are you able to proceed? Are you able to proceed?
I'm on, Madam Speaker, I'm on.
Yes, please, proceed.
Yes, Madam Speaker, I rise pursuant to Standing Order 48-1 to seek a statement from the Standing Committee of Finance and Budget on unsettled statutory deduction for the staff at Nairobi City County. In the statement, the committee should, 1, provide the status of all Nairobi City County statutory deduction for staff for the months of October, November, and December 2021. Secondly, investigate allegations of unauthorized expenditure by the Nairobi City County government on funds amounting to 560 million, which had been earmarked for staff statutory deductions. And 3, spell out measures that have been put in place to ensure that the responsible officers within the Nairobi Metropolitan Services and Nairobi County government are held accountable. And lastly, outline measures, if any, to regularize the illegal diversion of funds meant for staff statutory deduction, tabling evidence of the same. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
I will allow a few comments on this statement. Senator Mutula Kilonzo.
Madam Speaker, this is a very, very disturbing issue. In fact, first, it points to impropriety on the part of Nairobi County if this statement is true. And 2, in fact, under statutory deductions, whether it's NSSF, whether it's NHIF, any person who is found to have not remitted statutory deductions appropriately is liable to criminal prosecution. So, Madam Speaker, I would urge that you request the Finance Committee, where I sit as a member, to get into this matter quickly, so that if the person is responsible, whether it's Nairobi Metropolitan Service or the person in charge of finance, has committed a criminal offense, they should be prosecuted as soon as possible, because you are not allowed, either by law or PFM, to reappropriate money belonging to statutory deductions which must go to government institutions for any other purpose. Madam Speaker, please order as such and ask that the Governor of Nairobi, Madam Kananu, and the finance person, and Mr. Mbadi, General Mbadi, should be summoned as quickly as possible to the Finance Committee to answer to these allegations of misappropriation of 560 million. If they have spent it wrongly, then this is a charge for the impeachment of the Governor of Nairobi. Thank you.
Senator Cherargei Samson.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I want to support Senator Omanga for this statement. It is illegal, and it is illegal not to remit the statutory deductions that we have. And I think many counties are facing most of these challenges, Madam Speaker, because 560 million, I can see KRA sometimes are very brutal when their money is not remitted. So when you have statutory deduction that has not to the tune of 560 million, and when you go to Treasury under CRF account of Nairobi City County Government, it has already been released. So where is the money? So it looks like this money has already been misappropriated. It is as simple as that. And I hope when Governor Ann Kananu and the executive team of Nairobi City County appear before the Finance and Budget Committee, they must tell us the money has been released by the Exchequer. It has been statutorily deducted under the law. Where does it go? This is corruption, and it must be called by its name. We can't even call it the deduction was not remitted. Because how comes the money has been released by the Exchequer, it has been released to the county governments, it is supposed to ensure that statutory deductions are done, and we have seen in many counties, in fact in Nandi, for example, Madam Speaker, there was a time they were not remitting NHIF money. There has been cases where statutory deductions to KRA has not been remitted. And you remember even the former governor of this city county was at one time almost being arrested by KRA for failure by the county government. So we are having a big problem, and that is why there are so many pending bills that most county governments are facing. And I hope this matter can be treated urgently, because most of these statutory deductions is the right of the employees of Nairobi City County. So we hope and pray that when the county executive shall appear, they will not tell us about whether NMS was supposed to do it, or whether, now since there are two entities running Nairobi City County, the NMS and the county government, Madam Speaker, it must be said with no uncertain terms that they must appear, tell us where 560 million is, who took it, why, and in fact, I don't know why this statement is coming to in fact, EACC, because the SEC is in place, they should have even detected some of these things and investigate, and people are arrested. Why is the SEC sleeping on their job? It is their job to detect and prevent and ensure that they fight corruption. But now it looks like they are sleeping on the job, and now Senate will not have any option but to go after them. Be it the people in executive, be it the people who suppose their money to be deducted to, they must be. And I hope people who want to be governors in future, Madam Speaker, are listening to this and are listening good. Like you. When you are like Governor Mutula Kilonzo Jr., Senator Kilonzo Mutula Jr., we should not see some errors in the next Senate, Madam Speaker. A number of people, we should not see some of these errors that we are supposed to see, Madam Speaker. So I really want to say that this matter must be dealt and commend Senator Omanga. Senator Omanga has been doing extremely well, progressively, and I hope because she wants to go to the lower house, she can also ensure that such things are followed to the letter. I thank you, Madam Speaker.
Senator Cherot Aaron.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. You know, Madam Speaker, one of the biggest tragedies of leadership is when leaders lose touch with reality and they no longer know how it feels to go through what their constituents go through on a daily basis. And I think, by and large, that's the biggest tragedy we have in Kenya right now. Because many of us that are in leadership positions, in the very basic things, many people don't understand the things that citizens are saying. When their kids go to school, probably they no longer go to public schools like we did. When they are sick, chances are you'll never find them in Mama Lucy or Kericho District and Referral Hospital, you know? Or this particular situation, Madam Speaker, do you know what it means when NHIF is your only cover for you to be told when you're unwell and you need to be admitted or taken through a procedure in hospital that your card is inactive? Sometimes, and most times, Madam Speaker, to many of the people that we represent in this house, NHIF is the only cover that they can afford. And therefore, when an employee of a county government such as Nairobi, after having been deducted, is informed of the issue that Senator Millicent Omanga is bringing before this house, that their cards are inactive because some unscrupulous, either governor or NMS, or I don't know who, has spent that money to do other businesses, maybe to lay these cabros that you are seeing being laid across the entire street of Nairobi, like NMS is doing, to pay the big boys, and let the ordinary citizens, the people who toil to make this city move, suffer the same way this matter is reminding us this afternoon, Madam Speaker. Then it's a tragedy of our generation. And we must rise up to the occasion as a leadership, as a house, and make sure that those officers who are in charge, who have carried out this hit on the people of Nairobi, it is theft, Madam Speaker, because as per PFM regulations, you cannot use money that has been budgeted and set aside for a specific purpose, you divert it to do other things, Madam Speaker. Especially human resource compensation, Madam Speaker. Even in Parliament, we don't do it. One of the things we can never touch is personal emoluments, because it is specific and it's supposed to serve a specific purpose, Madam Speaker. It's unfortunate if this is found to be true, that in fact that public officer that has sanctioned that move, Madam Speaker, should be named, shamed by this house. If they are certified public accountant, we should send their name to ISPAC and ask that they be debarred and not allowed to practice as an accountant in this country, Madam Speaker, because it's unfortunate and it's sad. Many of these people don't earn beyond the figures that those in leadership actually use for airtime on a monthly allowance. It's 20,000, 30, 50,000. When you deny them NHIF service and their children are unwell, what do you expect them to do, Madam Speaker? Therefore, can this matter please be treated with the urgency that it deserves, be brought before whichever committee, if it's brought to the finance committee where I am. This is some of the matters that we even transact business late into the night, even on WhatsApp or on Zoom, Madam Speaker, so that Kenyans can get justice. It's unfortunate, and I hope that we resolve this matter so that the good staff of Nairobi City County can enjoy the services of NHIF like the rest of Kenya. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Senator Halake Abshiro.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I rise to support Senator Omanga with her intervention on the unsubmitted statutory deductions. Madam Speaker, it's not just Nairobi County government. I think a lot of counties are perhaps, if this is checked out, but that having been said, even government parastatals, I'm aware of a few that report to my committee, for instance, that had this issue, especially the Postal Corporation and others. So I think this issue is really, really of great concern to our workers. If we have such a high percentage of people not employed, and therefore don't even have a source of livelihood, but those that are employed are going to be destituted because whatever they're supposed to be, putting aside is not being, is not being submitted to the necessary bodies. Then what we are doing is that, as a country, we are really disadvantaging both it doesn't even matter whether you're employed or not, because if you're employed but your deductions are not being, you're not. If today you go away from work or you're let to go, what do you get? You go without anything. So really, this is unacceptable. It's unlawful and must be investigated. And I hope the concerned committee of this House, this House has become the place that citizens run to. And Senator Omanga, having brought this here, is to make sure that the citizens get their dues, their right to be represented, and therefore I hope that committee really gets to the bottom of this. And if it's possible, of course we should focus on Nairobi, but if possible, if it could be expanded to a few other places to just check what the status of statutory deductions for our citizens are, then you'll be very surprised, Madam Speaker, that we're presiding over even a workforce that has nothing to go back to should their work end today. So I don't know what is happening. Is that money going to individual pockets? What is going on? Because the money has been actually deducted from the pay of the individual. It's not even coming from anywhere else. So what is happening is really sad. We want to make sure then it's even better not to be deducted anything. You take your money and do with it what you can do with it, instead of being deducted, but it goes somewhere that is into a hole we don't understand. Many parastatals, many government institutions are suffering this fate, and it's about time. And a few come to mind. We've been dealing with these things even at committee level. I think at some point, and I hope it has been rectified now, KBC, the Postal Corporation, and many others that perhaps don't report to the committee that I vice chair. So this is something that's very prevalent, and this House must actually look at it in a broader form, even after we look at the Nairobi specifically, because Senator Omanga has asked. I support and look forward to this being resolved, Madam Speaker.
Senator Mutula.
I've spoken to this issue. I was going to request, as you direct this matter to the appropriate committee, and in this case it will be finance, since the House is going on a short recess on 11th of March, which is next week, and this statement, from what I've read, was requested for and approved on 9th of February, in view of what Senator Cheruiyot has brought to our attention, that indeed, if this is true, some people may be suffering and will not be allowed to use their NHIF cards. Would I be in order to request and that you direct an interim report be tabled by the Finance Committee Chair on Thursday on an interim basis, so that it gives us an avenue of calling the concerned officials next week at the appropriate and urgently as possible. Thank you, Chair.
Having heard the concerns that have been raised by members on that statement by Senator Omanga, and noting that the statement is under 47, I know that the relevant committee will have noted the concerns of the members and be able to handle the matter appropriately. Honorable Senators, we have concluded the business of the day, and there being no other business in the order paper, the Senate stands adjourned until Tuesday, 8th March 2022 at 2:30 p.m.
What is this one? How can we close at 3? As much as it's 4 hours. It's 4. And if I didn't look for she would have closed at 2:45.
to be replied to before the Departmental Committee on Administration and National Security. Last question is by the member for Meru County, the Honorable Bishop Kawira Mwangaza, who wrote to request that the question be deferred. I have since acceded to the request, and therefore that question is deferred. For the second time, the question by the Honorable Danita Gatti. The Honorable Danita Gatti has not written to make any request, and therefore the question is dropped. Go to the next segment. The next segment, part one, is request for statement, and the first request is by the member for Nandi Hills, the Honorable Keter.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Honorable Speaker, pursuant to the provisions of Standing Order 442C, I wish to request for a statement from the Chairperson of the Departmental Committee on Labor and Social Welfare regarding massive unemployment caused by introduction of tea harvesting machines in Nandi East constituency. Honorable Speaker, high rate of unemployment has now become a major occurrence over a period of time, now especially recently, where tea factories in Nandi East constituency have increased the use of tea harvesting machines to replace tea plucking workers in their plantations. As a matter of concern, tea plucking machines pose a threat to the jobs of more than 50,000 tea harvesting workers, as each single machine replaces 100 tea plucking workers, with only 2 workers remaining in the sector. Further, high unemployment rates have led to increased crime rates, which is consequentially a threat to the national security. Thus, this matter requires immediate intervention and redress. Honorable Speaker, it is on this background that I seek for a statement from the Chairperson of the Departmental Committee on Labor and Social Welfare on the following. 1. Could the Chairperson explain measures put in place to avert loss of jobs following the introduction of the tea harvesting machines in Nandi East constituency? Number 2. Could the Chairperson explain whether the government is aware that as a result of the said unemployment, the crime rate in the affected regions has increased, thus causing insecurity? Number 3. What actions has the government taken to ensure that the affected persons, and in particular the tea pluckers in the said region, are provided with other alternative sources of income for their livelihoods? And number 4. What plans has the government put in place to ensure that the rights of workers are not violated through arbitrary sacking by the tea companies? And lastly, Mr. Speaker, what future plans and precautionary steps has the government taken to ensure that no further losses of jobs by the workers as a result of mechanization of tea harvesting in the country? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Member for the Chair of Labor, how long do you think it will take you to bring this answer? The response?
Honorable Chair, Honorable Speaker, I thank the member for seeking that statement, but also note that there was a similar request some times back. I was not the chair then, but as you know, I'm a frequenter in the House, so I'm aware that there was a similar question that was put by, I think, Honorable Koech, if I'm not long, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, at the same time, since we are going on recess, and sometimes when we are on recess, we have so many committee meetings that we will be having, Honorable Speaker, I would request the member to give us 2 weeks after we resume from recess, Honorable Speaker, so that we can exhaustively look at this issue. The issue of mechanization is a major problem to many, and I'm surprised that the person who sought the statement is not listening to my response, Honorable Speaker. I'm surprised and very surprised that he is not listening or paying attention. Honorable Speaker, the issue of mechanization is something that has been handled in many areas, and this is more so because we cannot run away from technology. We can only adopt the consequences of technology, Honorable Speaker, and therefore this is something we shall be asking the ministry to seriously research on and come up with a serious, or rather a comprehensive response to the member, and if it warrants, Honorable Speaker, I will organize my committee to even visit this particular area and see the effects of that mechanization, so that we can also try to be innovative in a way likely to enable us to adopt to what has come.
But 2 weeks.
In Mwea, Honorable Speaker,
so
because...
No, don't go to Mwea. But I will allow the member for Konoin, the Honorable Brighton Yegon, who had raised a similar question. Honorable Yegon.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. I had indeed raised a similar question in 30th June 2021, and the CS concerned set himself a question and answered, which he answered my question unsatisfactorily. And on prompting him, he said that he was going to do further research and then come up with an appropriate answer. But to date, Mr. Speaker, I have not received any appropriate answer from the committee. Mr. Speaker,
was the question directed to the same committee, Labour?
Yes, it was CS Chelugui prosecuting it, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, this issue of multinational who was actually failed.
There's no debate. There's no debate. What the issue is, the question was not satisfactorily answered, and that the Cabinet Secretary promised to give a more satisfactory answer. Since then, he has not. So there's nothing to debate. You know, this House, please, and it's fair. This House, it is important that we observe the rules. I allowed you to raise that point because the chairman had already actually alluded to that issue because he's a regular member in the House, and therefore I believe the Honorable Kabinga Washira, as a response to the statement by the Honorable Alfred Ketel, you also take on board, as you had already said, what the Honorable Brighton Yegon had raised. But I wanted the member for Konoin to be also heard, because he had raised the same question, so that people, we are in that season of madness. So the member for Konoin, it's fair that he also is heard, so that Bonga Point in the village, already there's nothing. Because the chairman has already said that he was already aware, so he's already actually taken on board that. But it was important that the Honorable Leonard Brighton Yegon, the member for Konoin, reminds the House that his question, which he placed on the 30th of June, was never responded to satisfactorily last year. Thank you. I had approved a few other requests for statement from some members. I suspect they may not have, because I've seen one of them walking in 3 minutes to 4 p.m. But if you are ready with your request, I will allow you, because I'm aware of the calendar of the House. Those of you who presented requests, and I know I approved all of them. As you know, my style is that I never leave my office with anything pending. So I know I have approved all the requests. I would allow any member who had placed requests today to read them out if they are desirous of doing so. The Honorable Kiai, yes, you are one of them.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, mine is a request for statement regarding the rising and rampant cases of sodomy in our schools in the country. Honorable Speaker, pursuant to Standing Order 44-2C, I rise to request for a statement from the chairperson of the Departmental Committee on Education and Research regarding the rise in and rampant cases of sodomy in our boys' boarding schools countrywide. Honorable Speaker, cases of sodomy in our boys' secondary schools appear to be on the rise.
Satisfactory answer. Since then, he has not. So there's nothing to debate. You know, this house, please, and it's fair. This house, it is important that we observe the rules. I allowed you to raise that point because the chairman had already actually alluded to that issue because he's a regular member in the house. And therefore, I believe the Honorable Kabinga Washira, as a response to the statement by the Honorable Alfred Ketel, you also take on board, as you had already said, what the Honorable Brighton Yegon had raised. But I wanted the member for Konoin to be also hand to be, because he had raised the same question, so that people, we are in that season of madness. So the member for Konoin, it's fair that he also is a hand, so that Bonga Point in the village. Yeah, already there's nothing. Because the chairman has already said that he was already aware. So he's already actually taken on board that, but it was important that the Honorable Leonard Brighton Yegon, the member for Konoin, reminds the House that his question, which he placed on the 30th of June, was never responded to satisfactorily last year. Thank you. I had approved a few other requests for statement from some members. I suspect they may not have, because I've seen one of them walking in 3 minutes to 4 p.m. But if you are ready with your request, I will allow you because I'm aware of the calendar of the House. Those of you who presented requests, and I know I approved all of them. As you know, my style is that I never leave my office with anything pending. So I know I have approved all the requests. I would allow any member who had placed requests today to read them out if they are desirous of doing so. The Honorable Kiai, yes, you are one of them.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, mine is a request for statement regarding the rising and rampant cases of sodomy in our schools in the country. Honorable Speaker, pursuant to Standing Order 44-2C, I rise to request for a statement from the chairperson of the Departmental Committee on Education and Research regarding the rise in and rampant cases of sodomy in our boys' boarding schools countrywide. Honorable Speaker, cases of sodomy in our boys' secondary schools appear to be on the rise, with such occurrences becoming more frequent. Some time back, a 19-year-old secondary school student was allegedly sodomized by a teacher, thereafter suffering from acute stigma from fellow students and teachers in that school. Following this incident, the student tried to join other learning institutions in the country to continue with his studies.
Member for Nyeri Town, who has just walked in and walked out, I said that I will be regularly naming and shaming members who come and clock in and walk out. And you are the Vice Chair, Committee on Education, and the statement is actually directed at your committee. So I have said that every time I see a member who clocks in and walks out, I'll be naming and shaming, so that people know that you came here for 1 minute or 30 seconds. So please don't do it when I'm on the chair, because I will always do that. Please proceed, Honorable Kiai.
Thank you, Chair. Following this incident, the student tried to join other learning institutions in the country to continue with his studies, but has unfortunately been rejected by several schools, with most of them demanding that I should pay full school fees for a whole year before being accepted. Honorable Speaker, there was a reported case that attracted widespread attention at Aquina School in Nairobi in February this year. To date, the parents have still not received a proper explanation or full report on the matter by the school administration. In fact, there seems to be a concerted effort to cover up this matter and deny the victims truth and justice, even after several other cases were reported in the same institution. There have been several complaints leveled against security agencies and other government institutions tasked with investigating such cases for their casual treatment of such heinous acts and lack of thorough inquiries to apprehend the perpetrators. Sadly, one of these institutions is the DCI and has been identified as being the slowest in taking appropriate steps to thoroughly investigate such matters. Honorable Speaker, this grave issue now threatens the school systems in Kenya and the lives of young victims, especially the boys. In addition, the stakeholders in the education sectors are concerned that minors are being subjected to humiliation, shame, and pain that may affect them for the rest of their lives. Honorable Speaker, it is against this background that I seek statement from the Chairperson of Departmental Committee on Education and Research on the following. Could the committee conduct an inquiry into the prevalence of sodomy in our boys' boarding schools throughout the country, and particularly the incidences at Aquinas School in Nairobi? Could the committee explain why the incidences of sodomy in schools have never been thoroughly investigated, despite many occurrences being reported in the country? And finally, what measures has the government put in place to avert more cases and eradicate the vice? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable Flores Mutua.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the statement that has been requested for by the honorable member is a very serious one. However, next week the ministry is very busy with the issue of exams. So, Mr. Speaker, I would kindly request for 2 weeks to be able to respond to the issue. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
You may have noticed that one of the requests is whether the committee could undertake a countrywide inquiry.
Yes, Mr. Speaker.
But more specifically, the incident reported at what is referred to as St. Aquinas.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. We'll do what is necessary for the committee to do that, Mr. Speaker, as quickly as possible.
Very well.
Thank you.
I believe any other member whose request I approved? The Honorable Aduma is not a request for a statement. Member for Tigania West, I do a request for a statement.
I had a request for statement, but I don't know whether it was approved.
Yeah, because it is you. I was saying you walked in 3 minutes to 4, and the way you sat relaxed there, it appeared to me that you are not aware that I approved your request. So you have not gone to Chamber office.
Notify us in time, and then we can pick it and come over here. But if you don't mind, I could probably identify.
No, if you don't have it, then...
yes, this has been provided to me.
Yeah, because you are aware of the court calendar of the House. That's why I'm giving you this chance.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Thank you, Honourable Speaker. Honourable Speaker, I request for statement regarding demand for deployment of enough or more security personnel in Tigania West. Honourable Speaker, pursuant to the provisions of Standing Order number 44-2C, I seek to request a statement from the Chairperson of the Departmental Committee on Administration and National Security regarding demand for deployment of more security personnel in Tigania West. Honourable Speaker, leaders from Meru County and in particular Tigania West and Tigania East have severally requested the Cabinet Secretary for Interior and National Coordination to deploy enough security personnel due to many incidences of armed robbery and cattle wrestling in the northern grazing area of Meru, where several people have been killed. The residents of Meru have expressed their concerns on the increased cases of killing by armed criminals whose main agenda is to grab their land. Honourable Speaker, about 2 years ago, the Ministry of Interior and National Coordination withdrew the guns used by the National Police Service, or NPR, in Tigania West However, during the funeral service of those affected, a representative of the ministry promised to ensure such incidences of insecurity do not recur. Nevertheless, the ideal solution to the problem is to reissue the National Police Reservists with guns so that they can beef up security in the area. Honourable Speaker, it is on account of this background that I seek for a statement from the chairperson of the Departmental Committee on Administration and National Security on the following. Number one, could the chairperson explain the measures put in place by the ministry to restore security in the northern grazing area of Meru County? Number two, could the chairperson explain why the ministry will deploy additional or enough security personnel to beef up security in the affected areas? And number three, could the chairperson explain plans put in place by the ministry to reissue the National Police Reservists with guns? I thank you, Honourable Speaker.
Chair, Administration National Security.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. We'll endeavour to bring that in 2 weeks. Thank you.
Honourable Aduma.
Thank you, Speaker. Speaker, mine is pursuant to Standing Order 431. I wish to make a statement regarding the side demise of the late Mzee Honorable Ondiek Chilo, who passed away on the night of Friday 25th, 2022 in Kisumu while under medication. Honorable Speaker, the late Mzee Ondiek Chilo was a trained teacher. His political career started at pre-independence long before many of the members serving in this house today had seen the light of the day, and he diligently served at the African District Council in Nyando constituency from 1963 to 1965. Mr. Speaker, he later became a member of the Central Nyanza Regional Assembly from 1963 to 1966. And upon the death of the late D.O. Makasembo, he contested and he was elected as the Senator of Central Nyanza until 1969, when the Senate seats were dissolved in a new political dispensation then. Honorable Speaker, this Mzee served the constituency of Nyakach and the people of Kenya diligently. He was very dedicated and was a man of He was a man of great integrity and a dedicated Christian whose symbol during his elections was the Bible, popularly known in Luo as Mumamaler, the clean Bible. Honorable Speaker, the demise of this Mzee Honorable Chilo is perhaps the last curtain that is drawn on members of the first political generation who, under the stewardship of the late President Mzee Jomo Kenyatta and Jaramogi Oginga Odinga and the late President Daniel Arap Moi, worked selflessly for the independence of this country from the British colonial rule. The family, the friends and the relatives are converging daily for prayers at his home in Turdiburo in West Nyakach ahead of his send-off on 11th March 2022. May his soul rest in peace. Honorable Speaker, I have another statement and an issue of great concern which I also want to raise pursuant to Standing Order number 43 on the alleged assassination of His Excellency the President Uhuru Kenyatta and Commander-in-Chief of the Defense Forces of the Republic of Kenya. Honorable Speaker, it is now in the public domain.
Has it been approved? Is it approved?
Honorable Speaker, I've not gotten, I suppose it was.
No. I know I have not approved it. You know, don't sneak in things. You know, I not under my nose. No, it will not pass. Honorable Aduma, you know I'm very diligent, and I remember discussing with you and asking you whether really other than just going to make statements here, which committee has the wherewithal to investigate allegations of assassination here? And I thought I did agree with you that this is a matter that would be best left to the police, specifically the DCI, to investigate here. Because the allegations such as those ones are weighty. And if we come here, I can see the mood in the House. I don't see any committee which is going to investigate. I mean, to investigate that, you require to also call the police to tell you how far they are going. And I thought they should just be left alone to do their investigations. I advise you to take the statement to relevant officers to look at it. You appear not to have done so, and then you want to read it here. I think let's not do that, Honorable Aduma, with respect. Yeah. Leader Majority.
Honorable Speaker, pursuant to the provisions of Standing Order number 44.2a, I rise to give the following statement on behalf of the House Business Committee, which met on Tuesday, the 1st of March, 2022, prioritized business for consideration this week. Honorable Speaker, as members are aware, the House is scheduled to proceed on a short recess commencing tomorrow, Friday, the 4th of March, 2022. Let me take this opportunity to thank all members and the leadership of the House for the cooperation in discharging a mandate, even within very tight timelines and in a very busy season inside and outside the House. Honorable Speaker, I'm extremely glad that we have now concluded the debate on the budget policy statement as well as the Division of Revenue Bill 2022. And I'm glad we have finalized the remaining stage of this bill today and for forwarding to the Senate for consideration. This will allow both houses to have sufficient time for the subsequent processes of budget consideration, debate, and approval. Honorable Speaker, upon resumption of our sittings on Tuesday, the 22nd of March, the House will continue consideration of the following bills at second reading. The Elections Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 3 of 2022, Huduma Bill of 2021, the Children Bill 2021, National Electronic Single Window System Bill 2021, the Public Finance Management Amendment Bill 2020, the Elections Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 41 of 2021, the Election Campaign Financing Amendment Bill 2021, if they are not completed today, and the Advocates Amendment Bill 2021. Honorable Speaker, it is my hope that the Budget and Appropriations Committee will table its report on the first supplementary estimates for the financial year 2021-2022 soon. This business will be prioritized for debate during that week, given its urgency. Honorable Speaker, in accordance with the provisions of Standing Order number 42A, 5 and 6, I wish to convey that the following cabinet secretaries are scheduled to appear before the departmental committees as follows. A, the Cabinet Secretary for Education is scheduled to appear before the Departmental Committee on Education and Research on Tuesday, the 8th of March, 2022, to respond to the following questions. Question number 10 of 2022 by Honorable Safia Sheikh on access to education in Marsabit country. Question number 23 of 2022 by the Honorable Peter Kaluma regarding the intended merging of exam centers by NEC. Question number 28 of 2022 by the Honorable Michael Kingi, MP, regarding the registration of all schools in Magarini constituency. Question number 32 of 2022 by the Honorable John Wambugu regarding the issuance of KCSE certificates to students of Sacred Heart Kangaita School. Question number 39, 2022 by the Honorable William Kamket regarding the sustenance of school feeding program in Tiati considering drought. Question number 40 of 2022 by the Honorable Michael Kingi regarding the infrastructure and staffing of Galana Teacher Training College and Waresa Technical College. Question number 52 of 2022 by the Honorable Kamket regarding the details of schools benefiting from funds to build more classrooms. Question number 54 of 2022 by the Honorable Bishop Kawira Mwangaza regarding the quality of infrastructure in schools and criteria for infrastructure funds distribution in Meru. The Cabinet Secretary for Environment and Forestry is scheduled to appear before the Departmental Committee on Environment, Natural Resources on Thursday, the 10th of March, to respond to the following questions. And that's question number 33 of 2022 by the Honorable Anthony Oluoch regarding the impending closure of Kiamaiko Animal Slaughterhouse. And question number 59 of 2022 by the Honorable Dr. Pukose regarding the suspension of community forest associations that undertook shamba system in various forests. The House Business Committee will convene on Tuesday, the 22nd of March, 2022 to schedule the business for consideration for the rest of that week. Honorable Speaker, I now wish to lay this statement on the table of the House and to wish members restful and hard-working recess by the time we break later today.
Very well. Honourable members, the request of the Justice and Legal Affairs Committee and the Committee on Implementation, Constitutional Implementation Oversight Committee. On their request, I rearrange business appearing on the order paper as follows. After the business appearing as under number 12, the next business will be the business appearing as under number 16, which will become under number 13, under number 17, which will become under number 14, and the rest will follow that order. I'm sure honourable members, when we get there, the Honourable Peter Kaluma will be able to take members through and to see the need for consideration of those two businesses before the House proceeds on the short recess. Thank you, honourable members.
Order number 12, the Coffee Bill, Senate Bill number 22 of 2020, second reading.
The mover. Oh, the record shows that the mover was still moving. He has a balance of 40 minutes. Honorable Tiren, proceed.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. You were interrupted on many occasions, but thank you very much. I'll just continue from where I reached. And Honorable Speaker, in Nandi, Kericho, and Bungoma counties, the committee conducted public hearings and received submissions from the following stakeholders. That was National Coffee Cooperative Union Limited, Coffee Estate Producers and Processors Association, Kericho Bomet and Koru Coffee Growing Zones. Mount Elgon Farmers Cooperative Union Limited, cooperative leaders from Bungoma County and Kenya Coffee Producers Association. Honorable Speaker, sir, the committee was still considering the bill when it received the Coffee Bill 2020, Senate Bill number 22 of 2020. The committee then proceeded to consider the Senate Bill. Honorable Speaker, sir, the members of the public were then invited through a newspaper advertisement submitted to the for their comments in the Senate Bill on the 12th November 2021. One stakeholder submitted comments on the bill, that is the Coffee Subsector Reforms Implementation Standing Committee. Mr. Speaker, the committee then proceeded to consider the proposed amendments and full detail of its consideration, and the recommendations are contained in the committee's report. Honorable Speaker, sir, the committee also sought to incorporate progressive clauses in the National Assembly Bill into the Senate Bill so as to address some of the challenges facing the coffee subsector, and the last part of the committee's report contains comprehensive proposed committee stage amendments. Honorable Speaker, sir, the Crops Act number 16 of 2013 repealed the Coffee Act in its second schedule, whereas the first schedule of the Agriculture and Food Authority Act number 13 of 2013 abolished the defunct Coffee Board of Kenya. In its place and in the place of other crops is the Agricultural and Food Authority Act number 13 of 2013, which establishes the Agriculture and Food Authority. Mr. Speaker, Honorable Speaker, sir, although the establishment of the Agriculture and Food Authority has been hoped to centrally address the challenges of farmers in various crops, this has not been the case, and farmers have pointed out to challenges they were experiencing in the growth of the development and various crops that had previously been separated and regulated. Honorable Speaker, sir, it had been envisaged that with the enactment of the Crop Act number 16 of 2013, the Agriculture and Food Authority Act number 13 of 2013, the challenges that face the agricultural sector, particularly crops, would be effectively and adequately addressed. But this has not been the case, and the farmers have borne the brunt. And this is not just for the coffee sector, but to the sugar, coffee, and other crop cereal as well. Honorable Speaker, sir, the bill and the proposed amendments provided in the report will go a long way in addressing most of the teething problems in the coffee subsector. An example there is the proposed amendments to establish a coffee stabilization fund. The fund will help coffee farmers in income price stabilization, especially during years when coffee prices have plummeted. Honorable Speaker, sir, I encourage members to support the bill so as to help relieve the coffee farmer from the pain and challenges that they have been facing. Honorable Speaker, I beg to move. Thank you. I'll give Honorable Mutunga to second. Thank you.
Honorable Mutunga.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for the opportunity to second this bill. Honorable Speaker, the importance of coffee is so much that we have two bills coming up around the same time, one emerging from the Senate and the other one from the National Assembly. So the committee took time to look at the two bills, and they harmonized and came up with one bill, which is now presented before you. Honorable Speaker, coffee is a very, very important sector that earned Kenya a lot of foreign exchange in the past, which has been dwindling with time because of the reduction in the amount of coffee that we export, as occasioned by the literal amount of coffee that we are progressively producing as at now. Honorable Speaker, coffee is also a major foreign exchange earner in the sense that at one point in time we were exporting 130 metric tons of coffee. The possibility of selling coffee in the roasting market today is there as a premium product which can even fetch more money. But this has not been this has not occurred as a result of the sector needing a lot of support and backing. And I believe this particular legislation comes up to organize the sector so that it can support the necessary investments in the area. Honorable Speaker, coffee farmers are some of the greatest sufferers in this country as a result of the many issues in coffee, management-related issues, climate-related issues, so they are a frustrated lot. As a result, Honorable Speaker, there has been major collapse of the coffee market in terms of what we sell. In 2013, there was an act that was signed, which is the AFA Act and also the Crops Act, which lumped up coffee among the other commodities, and they were all to be managed under the Agriculture and Food Authority. The hope that time was that it would be possible and cheaper to manage the sector, but it has dawned unto us that it is not really efficient because of the number of handlings or the number of activities that have got to take place, and therefore the need to separate or isolate coffee as a product and have it as a standalone product in this country, and focused in the sense that we want to have the Coffee Board of Kenya reborn. Honourable Speaker, in the bill itself, there are several proposals that have been made. First of all, there are key proposals for production. There are proposals for development of the crop, including research, including production-related developments, and also for marketing of the product. The bill also sets up an authority, the Coffee Board of Kenya, to basically deliver the above functions, the functions of production, the functions of management, and the functions of development of the coffee industry itself, as well as functions of selling the product. It also defines the players within the coffee industry. There are very many players in the coffee industry, the growers themselves who are categorized into small, medium, and large scale. We also have the coffee roasters, the coffee marketers, the coffee auction system, and many other stakeholders who are involved. And they are very clearly defined, and their laws are outlined in this particular legislation, the proposed legislation. Honourable Speaker, it also provides the industry representation in various aspects of the crop itself and the various aspects of the value chain. It cures the mischief of the management-related issues that led to extortion of the farmers, and therefore it proposes measures that will improve the management of the crop to put it back to what it used to be, so that farmers can be encouraged to take up a lot more of coffee production, and therefore we will go back to exporting coffee as it used to be. The legislation also proposes setting up a complementary and independent coffee research institute, which was lumped up under the AFA Act, under the CARO. When CARO was being formed, there's a CARO Act. CARO meaning Kenya Agriculture and Livestock Research Organization. Coffee is recognized as one of the institutes within the Kenya Agricultural and Livestock Research Organization. But now it's being isolated. The research institute is being isolated, and the bill sets up its own functional mechanism and puts up a board that is going to manage the Coffee Research Institute, which will therefore be specializing in coffee research, production of new varieties, and looking at the challenges related to pests and diseases, so that farmers can have a better standing in production of the crop. It also specifies the internal revenue-generating mechanisms within the industry. The industry itself generates income, and it is possible even to support the coffee research through a certain levy which has been proposed within the legislation. It specifies and delineates the various government roles, the national government roles, the roles of the county government, and the roles of the various other stakeholders who are supposed to be participating in the industry. The bill specifies the regimes and the types of licenses and permits that are supposed to be administered within the sector, and it clearly specifies who is supposed to administer what permits or what taxes or what levies. It also specifies the commodity exchange structure, the selling or auctioning of the coffee itself, the systems that are supposed to be put in place, and also sets up the functional limitations of this commodity exchange structure. It details on the quality assurance aspect, which also recognizes the geography in terms of the geographically indicated coffee, whereby we can grow coffee from, let's say, Kisii, and it can be sold as Kisii coffee, and also probably Meru coffee or Kirinyaga coffee. And it goes further also to look at issues of traceability, so that when you are selling in the world market and the buyers need to know where this coffee came from, there is a clear mechanism of identifying who produced this coffee and under what conditions. Honourable Speaker, this bill is important for the sector, and the farmers have been waiting for it for a very long time. Wherever we have meetings with the coffee farmers, they always want to know whether we are also looking at coffee in as much of effort as we did when we looked at the tea, and we gave them a legislation that is supportive. So, Honourable Speaker, with those few remarks, I beg to move that to second.
Member for Samburu North, you wish to? Yes. Honourable Members, I propose the question, which is that the coffee bill, Senate Bill number 22 of 2020, be now read a second time. Leader Majority.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. Honourable Speaker, I rise to support this bill, the coffee bill, and to state from the word go that what we actually are debating and eventually processing is actually an amalgamation of two bills. The Senate bill that came from the Senate, plus the coffee bill, which was first read into this House. And I want to thank the committee because they have gone through the motions of harmonizing the two, so that at the end of the day, when we process this bill plus all the next amendment that we're bringing, we'd actually have killed two birds with the same stone. Passed on the Senate bill and also taken into account the coffee bill introduced in the National Assembly. And they've done that through a very elaborate proposal. So I want to process, and I hence want to first of all commend the chair of the committee and his team, because it's something that they've been working on. And if we can achieve that feat of getting harmony, then it will be far much easier to then process within Senate, because we'll be taking it to them to agree with our amendments, rather than processing ours and taking to them. And it follows the queue, the pipeline of bills. And we have bills of going up to 2018, Honorable Speaker, that have still not been considered. So I'm very optimistic that we'll get to the light of day on this one. Honorable Speaker, as members will be aware, coffee has some historical importance as a commodity in Kenya, and specifically because of its contribution to foreign exchange earnings, farm incomes, and employment opportunities among the areas where coffee is grown. Unfortunately, neither tea nor coffee is grown in the area where I come from, of Nyandarua, but we have interacted enough with the people in the coffee growing areas to know the impact it has had on them. It's been a key player in the Kenyan agricultural sector, and at some point has been contributing close to 10% of our export revenues. It was also one of the first major exports from Kenya, and has still remained a critical part of the Kenyan economy through its history. Again, it's one of the crops that mainly touches on the various farmers, the small-scale farmers, who account for about 60% of the production, while 40% is then through the large-scale farmers at both the plantation and estates levels. Now, over the years, just to put things into historical context, there have been several policy and legislative changes which have been proposed in a bid to streamline this sector. And members may recall in the early 90s, as part of the structural adjustment program, the government did issue some very broad policy guidelines which started that liberalization of the coffee industry. And this liberalization saw the Coffee Board of Kenya being given the opportunity to conduct the popular Nairobi Coffee Auction, which was then conducted and using the US dollar as the unit of transactions. Additionally, this liberalization again also saw change in the payment and farmers' settlement scheme system from a pool payment system to a direct payment system. And it's also about the same time that more millers were licensed. I just recounted that a little bit of history to bring into context the fact that we have come so far in experimenting with different approaches and taking lessons. Then in 2013, again, guided by the proliferation of so many parastatals within the agricultural sector, this House did pass the Crops Act in 2013, which intended to amalgamate all the various boards and also called scheduled crops to be managed under one directorate within the Ministry of Agriculture, the Crops Directorate. And the wisdom obviously was that if all the important crops are managed under a single umbrella, proper approaches to their management will be achieved with increased outcomes. However, with the benefit of hindsight and with some experience, we've now learned that that approach may have much as it was desirous to amalgamate everyone, it also had its own administrative weaknesses and challenges that stifled the realization of the maximum benefits from the potential economic returns from the crop. And this did not just affect the coffee. We've seen it also affected the tea, it's also affected the sugar. And basically what has happened is we've now gone back to factory settings and said, let's have an independent sugar regulatory framework, an independent tea management or regulatory framework. And similarly for coffee, that this bill is seeking is actually to get coffee out of that Crops Act so that it can have a standalone management and regulatory framework, in addition to so many other reforms that it's seeking to create. So I'm sure the chairman has mentioned this in moving in terms of the principal objectives of the bill, which is being to establish a framework for the regulation of the coffee subsector. And mainly, when looking at the regulatory framework, we are talking of issues to do with registration, licensing, issuing of permits, issuing of certificates, production, processing, quality production of the coffee subsector, and basically, there will be further amendments that are coming within the committee as part of the harmonization, which will also clarify the objectives of the bill even further. But looking at all these issues, there have been weaknesses in the registration, the licensing, the issuance of permit, and this has also affected, including the quality of the coffee, the marketing of the coffee, the processing of the coffee, its own marketing. We know Kenyan coffee is high brand, but very few Kenyans take the coffee, which is very different from situations like in Ethiopia, where they not only produce coffee, but they are also major consumers of the coffee. In Kenya, we produce the coffee. We tend to think it's only for outsiders, but there's very little consumption in country, and hence we have to export our coffee. It's processed out there, then we buy it back. Except, of course, now we have our Dormans, we have other Sasini and all those companies that are also processing it here for domestic and export market. So we know there are several drawbacks facing the coffee production in Kenya. We also know the issues of pricing, which are being addressed, and I'm glad that the Ministry of Agriculture is now at the steering some of these major reforms within that sector, so that farmers can be able to get the benefit of their labor. High cost of inputs is again something that has been given as leading to the deterioration in the quality of the coffee, because if you don't address the inputs, the fertilizers, the pesticides, and all those things that are involved in the production and processing of the coffee, we end up with a declining quality, which will mean fetching lower prices. And some of these things are beyond what we can do as a country. We know the high cost of fertilizer, for example, is all tied to the international markets, but I'm sure there will be something that the executive will be doing to sort out that in due course. And also, it's also been noted there's been some poor quality of coffee seed varieties and that have also got into the market. And coupled with the poor payments that made to the farmers, it's been demotivating them. Now, granted, there's also been good research coming up with different varieties of coffee for the different areas. And I think this is this bill will only help those institutions get better, get more defined, get better supported, so that together, collectively, we can reactivate the coffee production, the coffee processing, the coffee marketing, and even promote its own consumption in the country, so that people we can get much more from the Kenyan brand of coffee, which is very good and fetches a very good price on a global basis. But again, much more could be done, especially with the areas that have been chopped off in Kiambu and others and turned into, housing land instead of coffee, so that the remaining coffee plantations in the other areas could then at least be boosted, so we can increase our production and get our higher returns on at the foreign exchange levels. So in addition to all those issues, we have also noted some new consumption patterns, again, which are posing challenges to Kenya, who sell large quantities of homogeneous and undifferentiated coffees. That's on a global basis. People are probably moving away from coffees and teas to other substitutes, and it will require us to put some more efforts in our marketing on a global basis, and also to address some of the issues of value addition, quality assurance, packaging, branding, which will all become possible with the passage of this bill. This bill has appreciated most of the challenges highlighted above, and really it's in this sense that I wish to indicate I'm in full support of the bill, and I ask members of this House to support it and to support the committee as they go on further in terms of creating for the Kenyan coffee farmer that conducive environment for them to realize their full potential from the labor they put into the production of coffee, so that at least they'll be far much better than they are today. With those remarks, I beg to support.
No, we are saying put to the question when we have quite a number of members who want to speak to this, and I can tell somebody like Honorable Murugara is quite keen on this one. Yes, as many members as are keen to speak on this. Sure. Yes, Honorable Miri Odhiambo. Did Honorable Miri Odhiambo say there is coffee in her place? Oh, she drinks coffee. Yes, Honorable Murugara, you have the floor.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, you're right. Tharaka does not have coffee, but in my neighbors in Meru and the upper part of Tharaka Nithi, it's widely grown. I'm also a great consumer of coffee. It's a delicacy. And therefore, I rise to support the bill that we actually now go back to having the Coffee Act. Coffee as a crop is one of the oldest cash crops in the country, dating back to 1902 in Kikuyu. It was a reserve for the white man, the colonialists. Africans were not allowed to grow it until around the year 1920, when I think the Koinange, the senior Koinange, was the first African to be allowed to grow coffee. All this I know from history, because that's what I studied in my school. Not that I saw coffee until I was able to move to Thika. And that's when I saw the crop for the first time. However, I know as a matter of fact that coffee is one of the largest foreign exchange earners for the country. And it has always been, in spite of the fact that it has its ups and downs, and purely because we at first managed it very well at independence, and after independence, then we moved into a lull where we allowed the crop to deteriorate and start fetching low prices at the international market, as a result of which we came up with the experiments to see what to do with the crop, including merging it in the Crops Act, a mistake we made and we have lived to regret, having it managed by the Agricultural Food Authority, another mistake we made, because by that we killed the Coffee Board of Kenya, and now we are realizing the folly of what we did. This is a timely act. Thank you, Senate. Thank you, the Agriculture Committee of the National Assembly. And we actually need to support this purely because we now have an act of parliament that will deal with the Coffee Board of Kenya itself in its part 2 of the Act. From there, we will actually have to know what our county governments will do when dealing with the coffee matters. We are told to make regulatory provisions, which we will do in this house. Then we deal with the production, processing, and the marketing of the crop and the other issues that are provided in this act. We must at all times have the wishes of the farmers being paramount and supreme in everything we do. We must uplift the welfare and the well-being of farmers by investing in a crop such as coffee. And this is what we are saying wherever we go, especially those of us who subscribe to the bottom-up economic model, that at all times we must move to the lowest levels of our citizens in the country, invest in them such that we are able to open up their economic base. We are also able to expand the taxation base, as a result of which, for the first time, we will move around to having investments in the Kenyans as opposed to investments in development. Investment in production, investment in manufacturing. Then after that, we can think of investment in development. Let us have coffee grown widespread. And this is why we were talking earlier on of the idle lands in the country, which we must now bring to agricultural production, whichever way. If we made a similar mistake, like what we have in dealing with coffee, when we actually dealt with the 1 million acre schemes, and these were colonial schemes soon after independence to try and settle the landless Kenyans, which were actually exploited by the high and the mighty to award themselves thousands upon thousands, hundreds of thousands of acres at the expense of the ordinary person. This is the time we actually relook into this and we see whether every farmer can now have land on which to grow crops, including coffee. I know we are also trying to decentralize tea, which is also a very important crop in the country. We are decentralizing sugar, and soon we will actually be decentralizing all crops from the Crops Act. Most important, I now have to go to my constituency, where I would want to see an act of parliament which is pending before this house because it was passed by the Senate, the Mung Beans Act. It is the Mung Beans Bill, which is similar to the coffee bill. And for those who do not know what mung beans are, these are actually the dengu that is enjoyed across the Republic of Kenya by every household. We want to see this crop, which is widely grown in Tharaka constituency. It is actually the leading cash crop and not a food crop per se, because farmers in Tharaka do grow this crop, after which it is sold as a cash crop for consumption elsewhere in the country. Let us have a Mung Beans board to deal with this. Let us have a way of promoting its production, its marketing, and all that goes with the production of crops. We also have other crops which we must decentralize. One of them being the Gadam sorghum. This is a type of sorghum that is actually marketed to Kenya breweries. It is for purposes of brewing beer and the assortment of beers that we enjoy. There isn't any law that regulates this. It's a cereal. I know there used to be a Cereals Crops Act, which unfortunately was also repealed and amalgamated with the Crops Act. This is the high time we went back to this to ensure that we are also able to grow our cereals at reasonable and profitable margins in the country. There used to be cotton widely grown in Tharaka also. It also went down and just died. For reasons we know, poor management, the Cotton Seed and Lint Marketing Board was actually let to die, as a result of which there wasn't much production of cotton, everything went down with it, including the industries we had, which were actually working on garments, like the Rift Valley textiles and such other industries. They all went down, and the crop now is a pale shadow of what it used to be. Let's go back to producing cotton so that we move away from these imports, some of which really have nothing or no benefit to our country apart from killing our industry, killing our economy, and doing everything else. As I complete my submissions, we were just dealing with the reduction in the food prices. And the only way we can deal with this is to ensure that we have proper laws in place, proper laws to control inputs in what we are growing in the country. Because food prices, at the level they are in today, every Kenyan is worried. Are we really on the right path? And there are various reasons why our food prices are so high, including high taxation. And that taxation is not for the benefit of the country. Possibly, it's a taxation that would enable the country raise revenue to pay its increasing debt levels. And we have no qualms, so we do not have any missing of words that our debt situation in the country is not the most palatable. It is not the best. Absolutely. And let me not be told by anyone that we're incurring these debts so that tomorrow our children have better roads, our children have water, our children have electricity. Because the way we are distributing development is skewed. And somebody needs to address this. I can assure you, my child is going to be faced with a debt of 250,000 shillings. Every child being born in Tharaka. There isn't much of roads, there isn't much of electricity, there isn't much of water. So, I do submit that as we look into all the crops in the country, as we look into reduction of food prices, let's also look at our debt levels, let's look at taxation so that the lives of Kenyans can be eased, especially the lives of hustlers. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable Odhiambo Akop.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me this opportunity. Mr. Speaker, let me say at the onset that I do support the bill. I am not a coffee grower, but I'm a consumer, even though I tend to love tea much more than I love coffee. But in solidarity with my husband, who is a lover of coffee, I do support. But that aside, Mr. Speaker, one of the things we know is that coffee is a major foreign exchange earner for this country. But in recent years, we have faced a lot of challenges in the production of coffee. And Mr. Speaker, you know this is a big problem because a lot of my friends that I went to school with went to school because of coffee. Mr. Speaker, one of the challenges that has plagued the coffee sector, of course, is the issue of global competitiveness and the issue of marketing. What this bill seeks to do is to redress some of the challenges that this sector has faced. But, Mr. Speaker, one of the issues that I wish the bill would address is, of course, the issue of intellectual property rights. Years back, Mr. Speaker addressed the issue in this House that we actually have variants that are very specific to Kenya that have been seen and known to have beneficial properties, like the green coffee that has been said that is beneficial for weight loss. And we know a lot of women spend millions of shillings on this. And indeed, if this was actually working, as was indicated, Mr. Speaker, then we would be minting money from the coffee in Kenya. So, Mr. Speaker, you can imagine my shock to learn about this from a TV in America, not even in Kenya. So sometimes we actually have very good products, but we don't put in as much effort and as much energy as a country. That is why, Mr. Speaker, I'm very happy that we have now separated the Independent Coffee Research Institute. And indeed, I think the people who came up with the Alpha bill were very well intentioned, but it has actually proven that it was not the best way to go. Each of our crops needs very specific and particular attention because the international market has become overly aggressive, and we must also become very overly aggressive in the way that we deal with these issues. Mr. Speaker, I'm also happy about the issue of the coffee fund, which will also enable us to stabilize prices that may be compromised, especially because of climate change that affects production. Mr. Speaker, I would want to indicate that even as a country, we should not be reactionary, but we should be able to know that because of the challenges that we are facing, we must be able to proactively deal with some of these issues. Mr. Speaker, I have looked at the bill, and other than the issue on intellectual property that I hope the committee can pick up, I would only basically propose very minor amendments, including one, the issue of intellectual property so that we protect our own product, and also the issue that in a lot of the management committees and systems that are suggested, that we ensure that we have the face of Kenya, but also that we need to think about diversifying coffee growing to other areas in the country that may have potential. Mr. Speaker, I would also want to encourage us, the way I see a lot of consumption of coffee out of the country, and the way I've also seen people diversifying, the government seeking to diversify and train other areas to eat fish. Let us also encourage Kenyans to have a culture of consuming our own products, Mr. Speaker. With those few remarks, I would wish to support and encourage the committee to pick up my suggestions, or if we have time, I know we have a pretty busy schedule, I may actually bring those amendments. With those few remarks, I support.
Honorable Waweru Kerie.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. And I do hear some murmurs that there might not be any coffee in Dagoretti South constituency, being a constituency within the city. But I stand here, Mr. Speaker, to clarify that we've actually got acres and acres of land which is under this very crucial coffee, this very crucial crop in Dagoretti South constituency. Mr. Speaker, it is true that coffee has a long history in this country. And the history has not been a rosy one, Mr. Speaker. If you go to any rural area today and find an old person who grew up in a coffee growing zone, they will tell you that they actually even fear that crop, Mr. Speaker. Because how the crop was introduced into this country was when the colonial government was intending to make this their overseas shamba, and they brought coffee as one of the cash crops that they would be growing in this area, as they had done with things like sugar in Jamaica or sugar in some of the Indian Ocean coast countries, Mr. Speaker. And there were so many protocols that went with the growing of this cash crop, Mr. Speaker. Some of these very punitive protocols have since been lessened, and some of them has been actually removed altogether, Mr. Speaker. So this bill is actually our generation's contribution towards the journey of making this crop not only more profitable for our country, but even more acceptable to our people, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the bill does cover a wide range or a wide area, Mr. Speaker. There is good proposals that will help in the production and the farming of this crop, Mr. Speaker, and the processing, Mr. Speaker. However, when it comes to the third reading, Mr. Speaker, some of us shall be bringing some few amendments because a very critical element has been left out, Mr. Speaker. We need to bring up amendments that give good proposals on how to ultimately market the product. After it has been farmed, after it has been processed, the biggest gap to date, Mr. Speaker, has been in how we market this crop in our country, Mr. Speaker. It is true, and we have been told here, that Kenya produces some of the finest quality of coffee anywhere in the world, Mr. Speaker, to the point where even our coffee is used to blend international coffee, Mr. Speaker. So if we cannot market it right, I can tell you that someone else will market it. We have seen big names, big brands that have been able to grow to become international brands using Kenyan coffee, but never acknowledging, never recognizing. And hence the issue that was raised by the Honorable Millie Odhiambo is critical, Mr. Speaker. The issue about intellectual properties, Mr. Speaker. Even as we are pushing it as an agricultural concern, I wish the chairman, the Honorable Tiren, because I know he's very diligent and dutiful, would also, in the same breath, push the Ministry of Information, Communication and Innovation so that they can stop sitting on the intellectual properties policy, which they have been sitting on for quite a while, Mr. Speaker. This intellectual properties policy would also be able to protect some of the variants that we produce here in Kenya that are very high quality, Mr. Speaker. When we were growing up, we only knew of Arabic and people are finding it easier to put up houses than have coffee growing there, Mr. Speaker. But Mr. Speaker, all in all, I would like to congratulate the Committee of Agriculture. I would like to also commend Senate for processing their coffee proposals, Mr. Speaker. And as it comes to the third reading, some of us shall be proposing some amendments that would add good builds to the bill that is already a good bill. Congratulations to the committee. Thank you very much to the chairman for moving it so ably, and Dr. Kanyuidhia for ably seconding it, and we support their efforts. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable John Bunyasi.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise to contribute to the coffee bill. Generally, I'm in support of it, but I would like to use this opportunity to lament a little bit that we have been going around in circles. Back in the late 70s and early 80s, our coffee board was doing very well. We had a coffee board, and at that time, the debate on intellectual property rights was quite rife and active, because we had managed to give unique varieties to Papua New Guinea and Vietnam and I don't know which other places, and they were moving towards exactly that, minor modification, and then claim over intellectual property rights. I think we have a national low esteem, I feel, that we don't even realize what good we have and how competitive we are sometimes globally. And for that reason, we didn't think highly of what we had achieved. Others did it, not just for the Kanga and the Kikoi, but also for coffee. So, but we are getting around to it. I hope that we are now in a new generation, digital generation, where information retrieval is easy, and people who have not done any history, and in any case agricultural history, was rarely taught. So it's a bit saddening that we've really been just going around the wheel in the same position. But be that as it may, these are steps in the right direction. The passing of the AFA Act was a colossal failure by both the promoters of the Act and by this House for having agreed. It has been obvious that if you heap together and create a huge bureaucracy, you can't get productivity. But we went for AFA without too much thought, and we have essentially lost at least 10 years in the development of the crops that were put under AFA. I think that was a colossal mistake, and I hope that we never do something similar. I know there are moves to do something similar in the energy sector and transport sector, but those are big mistakes. I hope that we don't go that route. Mr. Speaker, I think that we are doing the corrections of AFA progressively. I hope it's made a lot more rapid. We had a Coffee Research Institute that was of global standards. There's nobody who didn't seek to get a sabbatical or to be in one way or another associated with the Kenya Coffee Research Institute, funded by a private foundation, the Coffee Foundation. It was something that was up there in terms of financial technology that was so dependent on the budget. It was being raised by resources that came from the crop itself. That they were doing phenomenal research. So it's really sad that we dropped all of that, and I think for many people in this house, this will be new things being done. Actually, there are things that are being done extremely late. It is just a rewinding of things that we have done very, very, very well. But there is always time. The right time is when everybody thinks is the right time. And I can guarantee you that after we do this, in 20 years' time, others will think they're doing something new that perhaps we just be redoing this. So let us do this diligently. Let us do it with the confidence that those before us who have been in this research, the coffee research, had done exceptional work and had gained global recognition. I would like to move on slightly on this. Don't worry about coffee in Dagoretti. Let real estate move. We are not going to be able to compete against real estate. For sure, that's a battle you lose. And why? Because the owner of the land has a choice as to which gives them the better return in their perception. And we can't use national arguments to convince individual property holders. But I propose something. There are areas around the country that have climates that are similar. May not be identical, but are very similar. In West Pokot, in Kapenguria, you can expand coffee. They grow coffee there. You can do a lot more there. There are many areas around the country that have the climate where you can grow coffee. We should think broadly and we should widen. There are varieties that are grown in the lower, more humid areas that are different, but they also have a big market. Coffee is grown in Busia and Bungoma, and I know an entrepreneur who has been promoting coffee growing for farmers and has successfully been able to sell some of their coffees in the Dubai Expo. So it's doable. So I would urge that in thinking forward, that we think about the new areas in the country where we can grow coffee, the different agroecological zones where coffee can also be grown, and that therefore we will we'll go beyond the intentions of the sessional paper number 10 of 1965, and shall bring it into production. These new areas, and some not so new, they are abandoned, and now we are going back, but we shall broaden the production around the country, and that can be done. I think that such is extremely important. Mr. Speaker, this is also true of other crops. We should use the coffee bill as an example of what we are going to do, which can also be done in areas that were not traditionally grown. If we could grow mirai in Busia, we would have picked it up. I know we can't do that, but so you can't do it for every crop, but you certainly can do it for a large number of crops. With those few remarks, I support this, the full knowledge that we are getting back on the rails. We are not discovering anything new. We are just getting back on the rails. Let us stick on the rails, and let's be sure going forward, if something does not look good, don't agree with it. Doesn't matter who's promoting it. But maybe that way we shall make less mistakes going forward. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir. I beg support.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And I must say from the outset, supporting this bill. And it is a great day for me, and especially the people of Kirinyaga County, where coffee is actually the mainstay. We have 3 constituencies growing coffee, which is Kirinyaga Central, which I represent, Geshogo, Adidia, and we have actually expanded to Moya, where my friend Kavinga represents. And I must say that I look at those good old days when households in Kirinyaga County used to enjoy whenever there was a coffee payment. Those early 70s, late 70s and early 80s. And unfortunately, something happened, and coffee industry was neglected. It was actually abandoned till people started uprooting coffee. And I think the nail in the coffin was the passing of the Alpha Act, where coffee became a scheduled crop, and it was put together with even other less significant crops. And Speaker, something like coffee, which at one time in the history of this country was the largest foreign exchange, and things like tea, sugar, it was a mistake to put them together with other types of crops, because coffee also requires a lot of specialization. It's also, I think, the second most traded commodity, I think, after oil. So it costs more just than just growing. And with this bill, when we eventually become an act that I believe should be done and signed by the president before the end of this term, coffee will go back to where it used to be. And more importantly, when you look at Section 4, which creates now the Coffee Board of Kenya, and go on to give what will be the role of the Coffee Board of Kenya. One of the main roles is to ensure that proper marketing are done so that this crop can earn more. Because in terms of quality, we know Kenya produces some of the best quality in the world. But what I hope is that once this bill becomes law, it is not going to meet the same fate as the Tea Bill, the Tea Act, because even after passing the Tea Act, cartels continue resisting the change in the tea industry. And I hope once this bill is also passed, the cartels, because we have a lot of cartels currently, also in the coffee industry. We have brokers who don't want to let it go. And this act is coming to address that. We have some cooperative societies who don't want to let it go. And this act is addressing that. So we hope once this thing is passed, the cartels to hold tea industry hostage, they are not going to hold coffee industry hostage. We also pray and hope that the war in Russia is not going to affect our coffee and the tea, because we understand that I think currently Russia is the 5th largest importer of our tea and coffee. And I think if that war escalates, it is going to have a ramification on this sector, this important sector. I have this bill. There is a very important section or proposed section, which is bringing the cherry fund. The importance of this is that it can cushion farmers when the prices are not good, or when they want to invest in coffee but you don't have cash money. Currently there's a cherry fund, but there has been a lot of resistance from farmers to take it because it is done under the offer. But the thing is that we always say once bitten, twice shy. The cherry fund, which is currently being managed by KPCU, farmers have not been explained to the benefit because they associate the revived KPCU with the corrupt KCPU, which actually went to the millions of shillings of farmers. And I think the first thing to address, and which should be addressed, is to ask the hard questions. The people who stole farmers' money when the KPCU collapsed, what have we done about them? So that we can return the faith of farmers to continue growing coffee. I associate myself with Honorable Bunyasi when he said that we cannot stop the expansion of Nairobi. So whether you like it or not, I think Nairobi is going to grow both vertically and horizontally, and by that it is going to eat into hitherto coffee growing zones or areas. The best way is to increase and move to areas which can still be able to be good for growth of coffee. We expand those areas so that this important crop can continue earning the Kenyans, majority of who are farmers, and also the Kenya government some revenue as it used to be there before. Mr. Speaker, one of also the most important aspect of this bill is the establishment of Kenya Coffee Research Institute as a corporate body with the mandate to do proper research, because coffee, just like all crops, it goes evolving. New diseases, new challenges, new climates and all that. So we require a professional body which is fully funded and which continuously do research to that crop so that they can make it better and better and better as we go on. The only issue I have may be, Mr. Speaker, and I think we are going to propose quite a number of amendments, though I've also seen the committee has proposed amendment, is on the issue of qualifications of the board of directors and also the CEO. And with the importance of this crop, we need a very well qualified person with a lot of experience, not just the 3 years which are set in the bill, and someone who at least is well versed with the coffee industry, so that it can be able to promote and be able to safeguard the interests of farmers. Same case applies to maybe the objects, generally the object of this bill. And one of them is mechanism for dispute resolution within the coffee sector. You find that currently the dispute resolution is very expensive for the poor farmers, and you find that whenever there is a small dispute, people rush to tribunal, which are costly and all that. If a better mechanism is proposed, because this is just a proposal, if at least a better mechanism is put, so that it can be cheaper for coffee farmers. Whenever there is dispute, it is solved very fast, and farmers continue with their life. And also, we also know agriculture really is one of the biggest employer. And if we are able to promote these crops, especially coffee, I know even young people can go back to farming. And I have a fact by where I come from. Because of the proper management of those societies, even young people are embracing coffee farming and tea farming. And that way we'll be able to ameliorate the job requirement in the country, so that we don't just create a white-collar job. Because what matters at the end of the day is what the engagement you have, whether it is farming or not. Can it place bread at your table? That is what matters most. So, Mr. Speaker, this bill is very timely. It was wrong to have brought this, brought coffee under the alpha, but I believe the intentions were good. I believe Parliament always acts in wisdom. It's only that maybe that was the prevailing wisdom then, but at least this Parliament, both Senate and the National Assembly, have seen the existing rule is not working. And if it is not working, it's time to fix it. And I believe this coffee bill is going to fix the farming in this country, the coffee farming in this country, and we move back to those old days. But eventually what matters most is also the goodwill of these bodies once they are established. And also to ensure that the people will be put there eventually, they are not corrupt people. Because we know very well, coffee has been killed by corruption in Kenya, just like most of other farming or other activities.
Your Honorable Monena, your space is gone. Shall we have Honorable Udo?
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. And it's a momentous day to stand here today and contribute on the coffee bill, Senate bill that came from the Senate. Honorable Speaker, for many years, coffee was like what we used to call the black gold of Kenya. For many years, Honorable Speaker, Kenya was known for its fine coffee, exported and drank or tasted all over the world. Honorable Speaker, coffee has been a major income earner. And I remember in the 1970s, late 70s, there was the coffee smuggling ring that was domiciled in my hometown of Seoport and the entire Busia. And it was indeed, that was the height. That's Chepkube and the rest, that was the hallmark of the coffee business. Honorable Speaker, over the years, we have had so many lamentations. We have read so many reports, and we have written we supervised so many students talking about the loss or the reduction of coffee growing in this country. Honorable Speaker, it is a matter of a high interest and a matter of urgency that we revive this coffee industry or coffee subsector
because the role it plays in the national economy is so monumental, we cannot allow it to die off. Honorable Speaker, we remember with nostalgia how KPCU, we remember with nostalgia the coffee board, we remember with nostalgia the marketing was associated with the coffee. It's indeed sad that with the enactment of the Crop Act and the establishment of AFA, generally the coffee sector got a beating, so to speak. Honorable Speaker, this particular act basically deals with 3 or 4 issues. Critically, in its objective, is to promote the growing and production of coffee. Secondly, in generality, is basically to set into place structures that will ensure that we get value for money from the coffee subsector. Honorable Speaker, like all typical acts we have made after realizing that lumping everything under AFA was probably a mistake, have generally followed the same line. Honorable Speaker, nobody wishes probably to question the wisdom of Parliament then, but probably there must have been a very good reasoning, a good thinking, and this probably was based on the view that it's economies of scale in bringing all the crops under one act, under one management structure. But probably due to the diversity of the crop industry, also to speak, the various crops, it became difficult and impossible to have a strong team or a strong authority to run these various crops. Honorable Speaker, as we stand here today, we must say that AFA and the related structures have not served the farmers properly. And that's why there has been clamor all over the country to dismember AFA, so to speak. At this rate, Honorable Speaker, in the next few years, AFA will remain a shell and we'll have to dismember it and abolish it so that we go back to various crops. Honorable Speaker, coffee was a scheduled crop under the Crop Act. So consequently, they have, I think, a directorate and AFA to deal with the coffee. These cash crops, so to speak, are so critical to this country, it was practically impossible to have the thrust and the ability to market them by merely a directorate. And that's why we must laud the Senate and we must laud the committee for having had the opportunity to literally look at this. Honorable Speaker, the Coffee Board of Kenya is going to be now the main body that's going to oversee the coffee sector in this country. We do hope and pray, Honorable Speaker, the resistance that we have seen in the tea sector by the reforms initiated by the CS Munya and the amendments that was being made to the various acts relating to tea and the regulation relating to tea will not befall this particular place or befall this particular sector of coffee. Honorable Speaker, it is indeed one of the biggest challenges we have in this country is the entrenchment of cartels, the bandit economy in all sectors of this country. Honorable Speaker, I'm sure it's going to be a fight, and I do hope whoever CS will be mandated to midwife the implementation of this act will have the courage, the stamina, and the no-nonsense approach to dismantle those cartels. Honorable Speaker, the act also reintroduces the Coffee Research Institute. Many years back, I had many friends who worked in the Coffee Research Institute, as it was then. And they used to have very good ideas, very progressive research undertakings to find the most suitable variety to be grown in this country. It was during those days, Honorable Speaker, that there was an attempt to introduce coffee in my constituency of Funyula, and as Honorable Bunyasa has said, in Busia in general. And quite a number of farmers had grown coffee, but when coffee went down, they also abandoned the coffee, and they have been pestering me all along. Can we revive the coffee? But since I was aware there was a substantive act coming, I told them, let's midwife and get a new act, then we'll be able to grow coffee and get through the entire process properly. Honorable Speaker, another laudable provision in this particular act is the setting up of the coffee development fund. Indeed, like any other crop, there are those minimum or guaranteed prices. Whenever the international market does not achieve those guaranteed prices, farmers be given some subsidy to ensure that they do not go at a loss. Coffee, like any other business, is a business, and any person investing in it intends to make money. When they start making losses, that's the sure way to kill the coffee. I also hope, Honorable Speaker, the attendant regulations will not stifle the market. We hope the attendant regulations that will be made in pursuant of this act will not make it so cumbersome as to kill the incentives of the various players in the market. Obviously, Honorable Speaker, the issue of the roasters or the factories, the issue of the farmers, and the other middle chains that brokers or whoever is involved should be allowed to flourish so that it becomes business. Honorable Speaker, we will review the act. I don't come from a largely coffee growing area, so we'll allow our colleagues who come from coffee growing area but to lead in the amendments. But for us who take coffee, who have got agroecological zone that can grow coffee, we will put in our amendments because we want to secure the business as we go forward. As I conclude, Honorable Speaker, I have heard KJ complaining that people or owners are cutting coffee farms to do real estate. Honorable Speaker, probably it's important for all Kenyans to understand, like any other thing, there is what we call highest and best use of land. At any given time, any person who owns land will always invest or convert the land into an investment that guarantees the highest rate of return. If real estate guarantees high rate of return, you cannot compel or force a farmer to retain coffee, yet his neighbor who has converted his land has gotten higher returns. And naturally, like any other processes, there is continuous land use change. And any person anywhere should embrace and put into place mechanisms and measures to allow seamless land use change that guarantees progressive increase in returns to any returns from land. In any case, Honorable Speaker, with this Coffee Research Institute, they must be able to produce varieties that can flourish in different ecological zones so that we don't have just to rely on Kiambu that becomes the main producer of coffee. Busia can, Turkana can, all over can. We must be able to introduce cash crops all over the country. With those few remarks, Honorable Speaker, I support. Given some guarantee, the business is a business, and any person investing in it intends to make money. When they start making losses, that's the sure way to kill the coffee. I also hope, Honorable Speaker, the attendant regulations will not stifle the market. We hope the attendant regulations that will be made in pursuant of this act will not make it so cumbersome as to kill the incentives of the various players in the market. Obviously, Honorable Speaker, the issue of the roasters or the factories, the issue of the farmers, and the other middle chains that brokers or whoever is involved should be allowed to flourish so that it becomes business. Honorable Speaker, we will review the act. I don't come from a largely coffee growing area, so we'll allow our colleagues who come from coffee growing area but to lead in the amendments. But for us